I'm here with my boy Kyle Matovic. What's up, dude?
Nothing, man. Just lovely Sunday afternoon. The old lady's out riding with the police tonight because she's going to the police academy in a few months. So she's kind of getting used to just going along, and she took her gun and everything with her. Like, I'm like
Fucking
so proud.
pigs. Well, I'm sitting here dressed like the Liver King with the red hat turned backwards.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen you wear a hat, and normally
I,
I'm always
you know
wearing a
what?
hat.
Like I
So,
watch, I washed my hair this morning, and it's like my hair is so thick and
mhm.
soft that when I wash it, it fluffs up. And since my my headset is not working properly, I have nothing to hold the hair down.
Mhm.
So because I have the AirPods in. So I was
Yeah.
just like, I got to figure out something to keep this freaking mane in check. So that was all it was. It was just like something just it was sitting right here, and I was like, that's functional. And I threw it on.
Yeah, see, for me, the function for me is not showing the fact that I'm balding, but
Send your ass to Turkey, get you some hair plugs.
yeah, you know what's funny is I was actually talking to a friend who I think he lives in Saudi Arabia, and he said, "Oh yeah, hair plugs over there are like 1,000 or $2,000." I'm like, "Yeah, around here it's like $4,000 to $6,000
And
to
they're
get it."
when
And
they're
like,
supposed to be the best in the world too over there.
mm, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like I don't care enough about being bald to go and spend thousands of dollars. I bought like minoxidil and micro rollers and everything to help kind of maintain what I got, but if it just keeps getting worse and worse, I look good enough with a shaved head, and
Yeah, you're
you know,
fine. Like you don't have a
don't worry
weird
about it.
weird shaped head or anything like that. So
Yeah, I got a
all
big
good.
fucking head, both
But
literally and
you said
metaphorically.
micro rollers, and what I'm thinking of those, you know, the rollers you use on your suit to get the fuzz off your suit. That's what I'm thinking. You're like
Uh,
you're just like trying to get the fuzz out of your
so
head.
it's literally like a little a roller with like little needles on it, and you're supposed to rub your head with it, and it doesn't feel good, I'll tell you that much. But it's supposed to help like get more blood flow to
Sit.
your scalp
Bah.
because what happens is your they say that like DHT stops going to your scalp, which is like a form of testosterone, and over time, scalp tension eventually makes your hair follicles go away or fall out. I don't know exactly what the right terminology is, but basically, you're supposed to use this microneedler to basically like get more blood flow to your scalp, which will allow more hair to grow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go on, Bugs. Hey, Skype. Thank you. Silly fucking dog.
Mine are downstairs. I heard Axton barking a little bit ago. My wife likes to open the front window, and anything goes by the front window, and he stands on top of the couch and just barks. And it's kind of funny because like sometimes my wife or I will go sit on the couch and like tap and tell him to come up there, and he gets super excited, and he just loves to look out at the mountains, everything that you could see out of my front window with us.
Well, you know, like on my days off, typically, if I'm not out like working in the yard, I'm probably like sitting on the front porch, and
Yeah.
and he comes out and he just lays next to my feet, and he just kind of follows me around because
Mhm.
he was with me in on the road for so long, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just if I'm home, he's just gonna follow me around, and so I come in here and there's this door between us, and he figured out he could open it, and he's just like, no, no, that fucking door doesn't matter, so he just comes in here and then he wants to jump on me because he hears me talking to somebody. He's like, why are you paying attention to somebody else and not paying attention to me? So
Mhm.
now he wants to jump on me. And so I just got to tell him, like, Vach, just chill out, dude. You'll be all right. You know, Vach is like Afrikaans for wait, just chill. It's like sit almost.
Okay.
And so that's what he did. As soon as I said it, he just sat there. He was just looking at me like, okay, now what? You know, like, what do you want me to do next? You
Yeah,
know,
if I get
so
that look from Lily will occasionally come up to my right side here, and she'll sit down and she'll stare at me for a second, and then that's usually when I know that she wants to come up on my lap. So then, like this armrest here, she'll put her head like underneath of it, shove it up, and start clawing her way onto my lap. Especially if it rains. Oh, if it rains or
oh,
it
thunder or
thunders,
some shit. Yeah.
forget it. She's
Thunder
up
buddies
here
for
on
life,
top of me.
motherfucker.
Yeah, as soon as she hears thunder or anything, if she's sleeping in the bed with my wife and I, then she just
Dude,
flies up to our faces.
Butters will run into the closet because we don't have like closet doors up because we
Yeah.
had those sliding closet doors, but we changed our flooring out. When we changed our
Mhm.
flooring out, I had to pull up all the rails for the sliding doors.
Mm.
So what we did was we just did curtains. So we did curtains, the exact same curtains we have on our sliding glass door in our bedroom. We just have on our closet doors. And so he runs and he'll hide behind those curtains because they're dark. They're like
Uh,
blackout. They're purple, but they're blackout curtains.
yeah.
So if you, because I was driving over the road for so long, sometimes I would sleep during the day. And so I would get home and I would be
Mm,
tired from driving all night. And I would
yeah.
want to just go to the bedroom and go to sleep. So we had these
Right.
blackout curtains. So we just got the exact same curtains for the freaking closets.
Mhm.
He'll just run into those fucking that closet and he'll just go lay there. He's like, fuck this. Like,
Yeah.
if there's nobody to keep him safe, he'll just go hide in the closet. And if like if I'm like if somebody like let's say Beatrix and I are goofing off and we're joking around and we're getting loud and laughing, and he'll just go run and hide in the closet because he's like, oh, you're yelling. I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, typically Lily does the same thing. It's funny. Sarah and I were joking in front of the bed the one day, and Axton jumped on top of the bed and then like jumped on top of Sarah and started like hitting her with his paw because he heard us yelling. So whatever we get worked up if we're just fucking around, then Lily will run away, and dude will typically come over and jump at one of us. And Posh just sleeps. She don't care about nothing. It's kind of sad actually.
Well, she's
She's
older, right?
yeah, she's 17, I wanna say
Y-
now, so,
Wow.
yeah, she used to, like, get up and not, like, run around, but she would walk a little bit quick, and I'm like, "Well, I'm happy she's old fucking dog moving around pretty damn good," but now most of her days are spent she just sleeps in the bed, comes downstairs, goes, eats, takes a drink, goes back to bed, and I pick her up to take her outside and everything, so I realize it's probably getting to the point that,
Well,
it
I had a cat that was, I think, 20 before she took off and went off and died. My grandpa had a blue tick hound that was like 25 before he had to put it down. So
Mhm.
some of these dogs can live forever, you know. I mean, not forever, but for a long time, longer than you expect. So, you know,
Yeah, respectable,
she's
yeah.
reserving her energy. She's just chilling. She's just like, huh, I might need this one day. So I'm just gonna put this
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
reserves.
I'm kind of glad. When Sarah and I got back from Ocean City, I think it was 2 years ago. She got a video of it, but Posh was just kind of like trotting along, and I got down and said like, "Oh, come here," and she full bore sprinted towards me. I never seen her do that before. I've
Yeah.
seen her chase rabbits and stuff, which is pretty funny watching a 16-year-old dog go after a rabbit. But she full bore sprinted. I'm like grateful I have that video because I like in case if I did like a
Knocked
something.
your ass over too. It don't matter how much you can freaking deadlift.
Yeah, she's a
That dog's
little,
taking you down.
yeah, little, I think she's probably all of like 10 pounds, a little 10-pound mini pin. She just right towards me, and then she turned around and went to Sarah. So, I'm kind of glad for it. And people always, like would say, "Oh, that was so nice of you and your wife to take in this old ass dog." I'm like, well, she's been with my family for ever since she was like a puppy. And due to situations that weren't our fault, and my uncle was going to get evicted and they were going to have her put down. I'm like, I just can't accept that. So I thought she was going to live for like 6 months and then die, but it's been 2.5 years later and she's still rocking and rolling. So
And you weren't a
um
dog person before her, right?
nope.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like I didn't like dogs, but it's just like, no, I don't have time for a dog.
Mm.
So Sarah, like literally, I think
It's
right
funny what you
before,
can make time for when you care about them, right?
yeah,
It's like
honestly.
it's like all these people that are like, I can't afford kids. Like you will find a way, I promise.
Yeah.
Once that kid pops out and you're like, fuck, my whole
Mhm.
life now is protecting this child.
Yeah.
Like that's like you're gonna figure it out, you know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it works for a lot of people for a lot of things when it comes to something that's like that seismic of a change. But yeah, so like when Sarah and I first started dating, she literally got Lily, and I remember telling her because she's working a different job at the time, I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea. But then, surely enough, she moved in, I think like 5 months later, and then I was like, all right, you got me. You got me.
Now I'm not even attached to you. I'm attached to the dog. I don't want to break up with you because I don't want to lose my dog.
Yeah, we always joke that if her and I were divorced, then Lily would have to have split custody because
I
he
know
likes
people
me.
that did that with a dog.
Oh,
I,
really?
I've I've seen it.
Yeah, well, like Lily instantly attached to me much more than she did to Sarah. And like, not that she doesn't like her, she loves both of us, but like Axton, funny enough, like I always say, Axton is like my first dog that I ever got myself.
Yeah.
And like, because Sarah had Lily before she ever moved in here, but they're like Axton is like the first dog that I've had since he was a puppy. And it's funny because Axton's like Sarah more. Like he's always up her ass. So like if we sit down to watch TV, this giant 90-pound Doberman Australian Shepherd mix just like sits right on top of her. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like Beatrix in the morning. Is like she can't get out of bed because
Oh
the
yeah.
dogs just lay on her. They like,
Yeah.
I'm gone. They're just like, all right. And they just, and Butters, which is the dog she raised, he's 98 pounds, almost 100. And
Big boy.
Boogie is like almost 110,
Yeah. That's a big
and
fucking dog.
well, and they're pits, so they're
Yeah.
kind of compact. Like everything's like jammed into this body type that's not
Yeah.
huge, but if you look at him, you're like, all right, that's a big pit bull, but then at the
Yeah.
same time, you're like, it's not a big dog, right? It's like you're
Yeah, they're
still
really
about you're about knee
Yeah.
tall, but you're
Uh,
just freaking, there's so much
stocky as shit.
there. That's so
Yeah,
they're so dense. And so
right.
like once they lay on you, you're like, oh shit. Like,
That's a
what do
lot
I
of
do
fucking
now?
dog. Yeah, it's funny because like if I can pick both Axton and Lily up, Axton is 90 pounds, but he's probably a little bit taller than your dogs. So like for me, it's like a task because I have to grab him at the right area and hoist him up a certain way. Lily's 70 pounds, so she's not that much lighter than him, but I could pick her up super easily because she's very, very stocky. But Axton's kind of tall and lanky because the Doberman.
Right.
So
Yeah. And so it's like like you get a hold of them, you start wrestling with them, and all that muscle is all in one area, and you're like, fuck, these dogs are strong as shit. I have this picture from when Boogie was a year old, and he's up on his hind legs and he's standing up on Beatrix's shoulders. Beatrix is sitting down at the kitchen table, and he's up on her shoulders, and all you see is his back, and it's just muscle just rippling down his, and you're like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think you said me that
And
picture.
at
I know
that
what you're
time,
talking about.
I think he was like 80 pounds,
Mhm.
but he was just massive. And
Yeah.
now he's over 100 pounds. He's 4 years old, like he's just like, and he still thinks he weighs 5 pounds. He
Yeah.
still thinks he's a lap dog. So it's
Mhm.
just like he'll just come at you head first, and he's gonna knock people over. And it's really wild, like the instincts of dogs. So we have this good friend of ours. He's an older guy. He's in his 60s. We actually just went and had lunch with him yesterday. Um, but he had Crohn's disease, and a while back he went into a coma and got put in the hospital. They ended up having to give him a colostomy bag,
Ooh.
and he would come over to the house, and every time he would come over to the house, he would be wrestling with the dogs. He'd get down and like, but after that surgery, he hadn't come over for a few months, but after that surgery, he came over to the house, and the dogs ran towards him and then stopped, like right before they got to him, right before they jumped on him. They
Yeah.
stopped, sniffed him, and just licked him, and just like followed him around. Like
Huh.
that instinct, they knew, like, oh, we can't jump
Yeah.
on him. Like, we can't do this. Like, this will hurt this man. But they know the guy. They know him very well. He's been over to the house several times ever since they
Right.
were puppies, ever since we got him. Um, he's been coming over to the house. But it was like immediately they knew our attitude with him, the way we interact with him, has to change
Yeah.
because we can smell that something's going on.
Right.
And it was just wild. It was just one of those things you were like watching, you're like, God, these dogs are so fucking smart.
Mhm.
We had a dude come over a while back, and I think it was a stepdaughter was with him. Oh, she was young. She was maybe 6 years old. She was a little bitty thing. Look the dogs in the eye. Like,
Yeah.
and they say, oh, don't look pit bulls in the eye. I mean, literally was looking the dogs in the eye, and they knew him because he had rented a room from us upstairs for probably about 8 months. He was up there for a while, renting a room from us. And so he was on his way. He lives in Georgia now, I think. He was on his way from Georgia to Houston, stopped by, wanted to see the dogs, see how everybody was doing, just kind of hang out for a little bit and then go on about his way. And because we're 2 hours from Houston, so he gives him a little break and before he has to get back on the road and finish that
Sure.
2 hours. And he gets out and the dogs just blah, up on their hind legs, just full bore, bam, just hitting him in the chest. And as soon as that little girl gets out of that car, she kind of flinches, like, oh, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
And they run at her. And then they realize they're like, stop. And
Yeah.
just kind of lick her in the face. And like, okay, super gentle with her. It was like so sweet. That just that understanding, like of seeing them understand what the situation is that they're dealing with. It's so
Yeah.
cool. And dogs are so smart.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm generally impressed by the way that my dogs are too when they do stuff like that because most of the time they're just like blithering retards just
Yeah,
running around the
exactly. They'll
house.
just jump for no reason. They're
Yeah.
just jumping all.
Uh,
You're like, what are you? Calm down, dude. Like this hurts. Stop it.
yeah, but they're like when there's something that like is seriously wrong or you need them to do something, it's like they just know in that moment. It's kind of fucking weird. Like I wouldn't think that they would, but yeah, I think they're a little
they
bit
just
smarter than we give them
they
credit
just
for.
understand, man. They just understand. They can
Yeah.
smell it. They can kind of sense what's going on and kind of get it, man. And that's why I always tell people, like, if my dog, like, there was a guy who's gonna rent a room from us, and
Mhm.
he showed up the same day that I was coming into town because this is back when I was still driving over the road.
Mhm.
He shows up at the same, like, basically the same time I pulled into the truck stop, and Beatrix has to come pick me up from the truck stop, right? And I mean, it's only a couple miles. It's not far down the road, so it's not like I had to wait long or anything like that. But like Butters, who's the one I told you is hiding in the closet when it thunders outside. He's just a
Yeah.
big chicken shit. He's
Yeah.
like nothing. He's a big baby. The only thing he does that's worthwhile, he protects these chickens. He's the one who chases the coyotes off.
Mhm.
He's on that coyote problem. He's like, I will fight every single one of you little fucking mutts. But he's so this guy shows up probably 5 minutes before I get to the truck stop, and I'm communicating with Beatrix, letting her know where I'm at and like what's going on with me. And I knew the guy was going to show up. So the guy comes in and Butter starts growling at him.
Mhm.
Beatrix is like, that's weird. He's not a mean dog. Like,
Mhm.
if anything, he's overly nice. Like he's not like aggressive at all.
Right.
And so this guy's like, she shows him the room and he's like, yeah, I'll take the room. So he gives her the money. And then he goes upstairs because he needs to use the bathroom. And there's a bathroom in the room we were renting out to the guy.
Mhm.
He goes upstairs to use the bathroom, and she's standing out front, knowing that, like, expecting him to talk to her before she leaves to come get me because
Mhm.
I'm already at the truck stop now. And so he goes upstairs, and like 15 minutes passes, and he didn't come back.
Mhm.
She's like, "What the fuck is going on?" So she opens the door. This guy had slithered down the stairs, gone out the back door, and come around the side of the house as she's walking in the front door because Butters had him pinned on the stairs and wouldn't let him off the stairs. And it was like my first instinct was like, there's nothing wrong with that dog. There's something wrong with you. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't want to rent the room to you. And
Mhm.
he starts, I think I'm allergic to your dog, that type of deal. But yeah, that dog's gonna fucking eat you, you scumbag. Like,
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because like Lily loves everybody, and if she gets worked up, then Axton gets worked up too. But like my dad and my older brother are the only two people that Lily does not like, and I have no idea why. Like I've had complete strangers over. I had my
because they're scumbags. No, I'm just playing.
but my family's plumber had came over and he's gonna like redo my roof and shit. And like accidentally came out. This was Saturday, and I was going over to the new guitar player in a common crown, Brandon's house, to go record after that, or to go like kind of work through some songs afterwards. And Shane came over is the dude's name, and accidentally came running out the house. They started barking for a couple seconds and they chilled out. But though,
Mm.
like they've seen my brother and my dad so many times that like I'm surprised that they really even like gave a shit about it. But it's so weird because like my brother thinks like he's kind of a little bit more along the lines of the pit bulls are genetically defective kind of mindset. And so that kind of confirms that in his head. But I'm like, dude, I promise you, everybody else she's super nice to. It's literally just you.
It might be a situation where your brother kind of has like this like idea about who she is, right?
Yeah.
And so he's kind of feeling a certain way, and she's sensing he's feeling a certain way, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, you don't like me? All right, motherfucker.
Yeah, fuck you then.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
she'll bark at him for a little bit, but then like if he sits down or something like that, she's fine. And like they play fetch and everything. And she seems to be kind of warming up to him a little bit. But I just feel bad because like I want her to just absolutely love him. And back when she was a puppy, she did. But then I think this might have been what happened, or what kind of contributed to this whole situation. My wife and I went to Altoona when we first got Lily. And we let my brother watch her overnight, and he and his girlfriend just like left her in her bed rather than like letting her run around their house. And apparently, I'm guessing she probably didn't like that. And then after that, I think she kind of soured on him. But um, yeah, we generally just have somebody else kind of watch her at the house if we go somewhere. So I don't know if that like had anything to do with it, but she was fine for him, with him a little bit after that. But ever since, if he comes over here, she ain't having it.
Well, and there are, and I mean, and then there are dogs, there are animals that just don't like certain personalities too.
Yeah.
Um, so we have a friend of ours of the family who worked for my dad. He was over at the house a couple of weeks ago for a crawfish boil, and now he's in the hospital. But they have a dog, and he worked with me at McCoy's as well. And he would come up to the store with his dog. His dog didn't like me for whatever reason. His dog just
Yeah.
didn't care for me. It maybe like just because I'm a little bit more loud and aggressive and move a little bit much or whatever. Maybe that was just all it was. But for some reason, that dog loved almost everybody. But there were two people in that store the dog didn't like, and it was me and one of the assistant managers. And it was like, oh, okay. Like just didn't care for whatever it was about us, didn't care for us, you know? So yeah, I mean, there's always that too. There's always the possibility that maybe there's movements your brother's making or your dad's making that's making the dog a little bit kind of you know intimidated or aggressive towards them that the dog's not necessarily used to seeing, and it's just putting the dog on edge a little bit, you know. So you never know what is going on. But I know with Butters, like somebody comes in the house, like we're pretty friendly people, we're just kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're renting a room to you, so we're not going to be like complete dicks and be like, you
Yeah.
fucking bastard, let's see how much abuse you can take,
Yeah.
so and Butters is not, he's usually like the first dog to like, he'll go up and he'll kind of sniff you and bark at you at first just because he's silly and he doesn't know what he's doing. But within 5 minutes, he's licking you and just like, oh, yeah, just scratch my head, dude. We're best friends. And so the fact that this dog didn't like this guy was kind of like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, what, my grandparents used to have German Shepherds. And whenever I was real small, even before I was born, they had German Shepherds. That's the only dogs they would have. And they would always say, if you come over to the house and the dog doesn't like you, you can't come in the house because the dog's going to live in the house, like whether you like it or not. So if the
Yeah.
dog doesn't like you, then we're just going to assume there's something wrong with you. And I'd say 9 times out of the 10, the dog was right about the people it kept out of the house. So
Yeah, I've heard that before that like if people always bring up dogs' intuition with stuff like that, and surprisingly, it does seem like sometimes it's accurate, which is weird. Like they must have just something about them that we don't. I don't know.
dude, I had Boogie over the road for 2 years.
Mhm.
There were 2 times in those entire 2 years. I actually, in 4 years that I've had that dog, there's been 2 times, and both of them when I was over the road, that I've seen Boogie bow up get stiff-tailed and the hair on the back, on his back stand up.
Mhm.
And it was when there were two different people walked in front of my truck. And it was, like I said, it's two different times, but he's only done that with people two times. And
Mhm.
it's like, so if he does that, I'm obviously going to be like, okay, what's up? Like, because
What's
it's
going
not like
on?
it's not like he reacts to people that way every time he meets somebody.
Mhm.
Like it's only happened two times. And actually, both times were when he was fairly young.
Yeah.
And like, I've never had him do that when somebody came to my house. And I've had all kinds of people come to the house.
Yeah.
And usually he's just like jumping on people and licking. And yeah, it can be a little bit painful. And because he's big and he doesn't know how big he is and he's strong and he'll
Yeah.
push you around. And but but he's not an aggressive dog. He's just excited that there's a new person that he gets to meet, and he's like, oh yeah, cool, I got a friend,
Mm.
like. And so like, yeah, he gets all excited, but like I've only seen him get to the point where he looked like he wanted to attack somebody twice. Both times was when I was over the road. The guy wasn't even near me, was walking in front of my truck, like not like where Boogie could get up near him and sniff him or anything like that.
Mhm.
He just saw him and he stood up on that dashboard and he bowed up and the hair on his back stood up and his tail got all stiff. And he's like, that fucker right there. And I'm like, all right, that dude's not my friend. I don't know that. But when Quincy comes over to my house, you
Uh-huh.
know, tries to lick the black off of him like he tastes like chocolate.
Yeah.
Like so it's like, all right, yeah. Like if you told Quincy my dogs were mean, Quincy would laugh at you. Like Quincy would be like, dude, those are the best dogs in the world.
Right.
So it's like, all right, yeah.
He's a
Like so
tough
that
character to dislike though, so
Quincy, yeah, Quincy's a
yeah.
bad motherfucker. I love Quincy. He's come over a couple of times, man.
Mhm.
Spent some weekends over here and we had like a 34-hour break and all that.
Mhm.
And yeah, always had a good time with Quincy. I love the guy. He's such a good guy. Except when he comes walking down the stairs butt ass naked. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like a thing.
It's not really a thing. He
Uh,
kind of got blackout drunk and I mean, we did antagonize him getting blackout drunk. And then Beatrix is in bed, and I'm sitting out at the kitchen table finishing a beer, about to go to bed. And he comes down, it's talking, and I turn around and I just see this little bitty fucking black dick. I'm like, all right. Like he says, he's hung like a light switch, man. Not intimidating at all.
Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
But no, Quincy's a bad dude, man. I love Quincy. He's a good dude. I know anytime I text him, if I need something, I could always turn to Quincy. But hey, man, let's get into the subjects because we can just sit here and bullshit all night long.
Yeah,
You know.
clearly.
so so one of the things I was thinking about. So after I did that podcast with Matt Brown, um, he was talking about we didn't get into detail about him ODing on heroin or being an addict or anything like that. We just kind
Mhm.
of brushed up along the topic. And one of the things he said is he's like, yeah, once I decided I wanted to be a fighter, I just put all that shit down because I wasn't physically addicted to it.
Mhm.
And it kind of made me think about my own life and the way I like engage in the world. Like I smoke, but if I don't have cigarettes, I don't smoke.
Mhm.
I drink, but if I'm busy and I don't have beer, I don't drink.
Yeah.
Like it's just and I'm not one of those people that are physically addicted to these things, right? And maybe it's because I haven't done it long enough or I haven't done it enough, though I'm 44 years old. And there are people I've heard stories of, nightmare stories of, from their 20s and 30s,
Right.
etc. So I don't know. It was something about that conversation. It was just the way he said it. And maybe being a fan of his for 16 years, it's rare. We get to talk to all kinds of cool people, man, and we have all kinds of cool discussions, but it's rare. that we get to talk to one of our heroes, like one of the guys
Yeah.
that we've actually like been watching for, like with Matt Brown, I've been watching him fight for 16 years,
Hmm.
and he's a year younger than me. And I'm still like at awe that like I've
Yeah.
kind of formed a relationship with him and we text back and forth and it's like, man, that's cool, man. Like, I don't know. It just means a lot, and,
Yeah.
and hearing one of these guys that kind of motivated you through life that you've kind of seen go through these highs and lows and this, that, and the other, and just actually having that conversation with them and they tell you like, yeah, I just made the decision.
Hmm.
Like I just made a decision that day. Like honestly, during that conversation, I made a decision. I was like, all right, when I'm done with tobacco, like when I'm done with the tobacco I have at the house, I'm done smoking. I'm not smoking anymore. And I hadn't had a cigarette in like almost 12 is tomorrow will be 12 days. I haven't had a
Hmm.
cigarette. And then I'm not drinking during the week, right? Like I'll drink on the weekends, like today's Sunday, and like I'm drinking a little bit and just chilling, hanging out at the house. But like Monday, I get home from work, and the first thought that crosses my mind is not like, let's get a six pack and chill out. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, now I got to go home. I got to work out. I got to fucking tend to my chickens. I got to take care of the dogs. I can make sure that everything's fine. And you introduced me to this product called Element that actually is helping because I'll get
Nice.
home. Oh yeah, I'll get home from work, and instead of sitting down on the front porch and having a beer, I'll sit down and drink Element,
Mm.
and that'll take me 30 minutes to go through that whole what 20 ounces, 30 ounces, whatever it is. I'll sit down and drink that, and then I'll be like, all right, I want to move around some. So I'll pull the heavy bag out or I'll get on the exercise bike or something like that. And I'll do something, you know,
Mm.
for, 30, 40 minutes. Like I'm, I'm not doing intense workouts, like
Yeah.
I would never say I'm just trying to tone up, but within 3 weeks, I noticed like some gains, like maybe
Yeah.
not like serious muscle gains, but like
Mhm.
my shirts are tighter. Like I'm
Favorable
feeling
favorable body composition changes.
right. I'm feeling better,
Yeah.
even if it's just the way I feel getting
Mhm.
up in the morning and going to work, it's like, oh, okay, I feel better because I didn't
Yeah.
sit outside and drink a six pack and do nothing all night long. I actually did something, and now I'm kind of energized and I want to do something else. And I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about, oh, what's my workout tonight going to be? Or what am I going to do tonight?
Mhm.
Like I'm kind of excited to get to that point,
Mhm.
So it's like this mindset. You flip that mindset, man. You just kind of change it. And I kept telling people on Twitter when I made a comment, I was like, hey, you know, I've I've been kind of lazy over the last couple of years. I'm drinking too much. I'm smoking too much. I'm doing, and I think people took it as like I'm saying, "Oh, I'm an alcoholic," or blah. But that's not what I was saying. I was just like, I notice I'm just kind of slacking on my responsibilities.
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I know I should be doing, and just knowing that I'm like engaging with these things and just facing it head on, I just feel better. I just feel better about life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because I think you called me on the phone like either the day of this whole I think the day you did that podcast and we were just kind of talking about this, but the one thing that I'm reminded of when you mentioned this was that whole Ethan Suplee story where he said like he kills his clone every single day because he used to be like 500 pounds and he was known in like movies as being like this big overweight dude, and then he lost all this weight and like looks way better than he used to. But the point of that whole tangent is that like he killed his clone, right? As in like he sees who he used to be as that fat 500-pound dude, and now he thinks that he has to be somebody else other than that, and like not in a destructive way but in like a constructive way where like I'm building myself into this, and like these are the habits that I'm going to embody to bring about a better change. And like, I think that's kinda what you're doing and what you're seeing is that like, "Oh, well, like, I'm not that person that sits down and drinks a six-pack after work anymore." Like, And a lot of this stuff does come down to like sedation. So like if I'm not busy throughout the day, I'll sit there and doom scroll Twitter. I'll think about what I can cook or eat or something like that. Like that's just where my mind goes. But though, like, today I recorded a podcast earlier with my buddy Jack Napier. He does Post Zero on Sundays, and we just kind of shoot the shit. And now I'm officially a part of that. So that's something on Sundays that I kind of get
I
into.
saw that actually popped up on my feed today. I was
Oh,
like, Post
nice.
Zero. I've never heard of that before, but I'm year zero. Y'all can go fuck yourselves because I'm the zero.
But yeah, so like if I'm busy and just into it, like yesterday, Sarah texted me a couple times because she was at a fire class, but I was with the other guitar player all day yesterday, Brandon, and we were just shooting the shit, going through the set and everything because he was like, "Hey, there are just some things and songs that I just like want to make sure are perfectly tight," which I like really appreciated that he gives a fuck enough about the songs to say like, "I want to make sure this shit's right. Let's make sure we're good and tight." So, I messaged him. I
Mm.
said, "Hey, if you're free this weekend, let's get together and let's work through some stuff." And we did. And also what was really cool is that I had this introduction for Cry, which is our newest single that we put out back in January, like a
Mhm.
little intro if we wanted to open our set with that song in my mind. And we actually sat down and recorded it yesterday. And then like after I was gone, I think he kept working on it and he sent me some like recordings that he did for it. It's super, super cool. So I'm super excited to introduce that. But like um I was so engaged in like going through the set, writing stuff, showing them other songs, and then we were just shooting the shit the entire time that I like didn't check my phone for probably like the 3 or 4 hours that I was there. Like would briefly check Twitter to make sure nobody was dying or anything like that, but they're like conveniently, like right before I left is when Sarah got out of her fire course. But like shit like that, when you're just so engaged in the moment, it's hard to think about, oh, do I want to go drink a six pack of beer? Do I want to go jack off or something like that? Or do I want to go eat? Like any kind of bad habit or something that's literally
Wait
sedating
a
you.
minute. I always want to go jack off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of being a dude, but like in the moment, it's like, okay, well, what I'm doing right now, I'm so
I mean, if it
engaged.
weren't my dick, I'd be gay.
Yeah, right, right. Exactly. But I mean, is it really gay if it's just you? I don't know, man. And come to think of it, all of us have probably touched our own dicks than more, probably more than anybody else has, especially considering how much we have to piss. Yeah, I mean, my God, if you say that,
Wait till you
if you,
turn 40.
yeah, I mean, if you compare the amount of time that we have a dick in our hand versus a vagina on our hand, I mean, it is like just 10 times the way that we're gay. But um, a lot of this stuff is just sedations. Like, like you said, you were slacking in some regards. And for me, like the first half of the year, I was definitely way worse off than I was for like this latter half of the year. Like these last 6 months, I think for 2024, I'm like, politics to me almost seems like a distraction. I want to focus on the band. I want to focus on my workouts. I want to focus on the podcast and talking to good people. And I want to focus on fucking building up everything that's important to me in my life rather than, devoting all my attention to political stuff, which like I'll still talk about it, but like I don't feel so compelled to watch for every last little move. And like I don't even pay attention as much to the foreign policy stuff as I used to. But like I feel a lot more focused and into the momentary and like the stuff that I think it really brings joy to my life. And I think that's way, 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 way more important than talking politics or, your chosen thing that you can't really have a direct effect on.
Yeah, it's like I felt like I was like I'm just sitting there like destroying my body, right?
Hmm.
And if I want to be there for my grandchildren, it's like then what good am I doing?
Hmm.
Like I gotta do something positive to move myself out of this kind of situation that I've let myself fall into. And you know, it's out of laziness, a lot of it, you know.
Well, and you don't ever
It's easier
start.
to sit
Yeah.
it's easier to sit down and drink a six pack
Hmm.
than it is to work out for 20 minutes. It really
Right.
is. It just it's kind of like I don't know, like an immediate gratification type deal that it's like,
Hmm.
oh well, I don't need to be doing this.
Hmm.
Like I don't have to do this. Like, yeah, all I got to do is get up, you
Hmm.
know? And then I'm like, well, if I didn't have the beer available to me at the house, then it would be a lot easier to get up
Hmm.
because it's so easy just to sit there and drink that beer. So if the beer is not here or whatever, then it's easy to find something to do because I'm like bored. I'm like, okay, now I want to do something because I don't have that, that thing in my hand, like kind of taking my energy, taking my time.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to find something else to spend my time and energy doing. And I'm not perfect, and I
Mhm.
know I'm not perfect and I probably never will be perfect, but at the same time, I can do better. And that
Right.
was it. That was like my whole thing is like, I can do better, you
Mhm.
know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I can do better, And so it's like, if I'm spending, let's say seven, let's say $700 a month on alcohol for between me and my wife, then if I go spend $400 on some exercise equipment and I cut out some of the alcohol,
Mhm.
then like it's not going to hurt me any.
Yeah, you're way further ahead too at that. And I find Sarah and I at one point were buying so much exercise equipment that like it was a thing we would sit down and start building stuff together. And I really, really enjoy that kind of stuff. And when it comes to exercise for me, man, like I told you on the phone that day, it's literally like a part of who I am. Like I
Mm,
know every single Sunday morning I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go hit the gym as hard as I fucking can. So like today I really wasn't feeling it. And when I was on that show, Post Zero, I was telling him like, yeah, normally I could do like 515 pounds on the conventional deadlift, and like a 365 squat is like nothing for me. And then 285 bench is pretty comfortable. Today I couldn't hit 515 on the deadlift. My squat at 365 felt like shit, and then my bench at 285. Was not feeling any of it at all, but I still went there and I still fucking did it. That's what
yeah.
fucking matters. It's just that consistency. But I mean, once again, that's part of who I am. I wake up Sunday morning, make my breakfast, go walk on the treadmill for a little bit, go hit the gym, and then come back, and then usually kind of start rearranging shit around the house or what have you. And yeah, I mean, I think you really got to look at it as like, this is what I do. Like, no matter what, I'm going to make time for this because this is something very, very important to me.
Mm,
Like, if I didn't go to the gym, dude, I'd go fucking nuts because I know when I take weeks off, which I occasionally do, it's like, well, what else can I do to like fill up this time? So
yeah.
like I have like an X3 bar down in the basement, which is like a resistance band set and a plate, which is actually really, really nice setup to have for people who just want something small to have at home. A little bit on the pricey end, but it is very, very nice. I usually just do like that full body workout. It takes like 20 minutes to a half hour. And I really, really enjoy it. And I love going downstairs and like seeing the bands and everything hang off. And then occasionally I'll just pick it up and fuck with it a little bit just because I've got nothing better to do. But yeah, I think that mindset of just like this is part of me, this is part of who I am is very, very important. And I think that's a positive thing too, because like, okay, well, I'm associating these healthy behaviors with my identity as a person right now. And it's not like you necessarily have to make it like a um a hard rule, but it's like a guideline that you always mentally have. And I think working things as like a mental model is a very, very important thing to do as well. So like when it comes to food and nutrition, I don't ever tell people you shouldn't have this, but it's like, okay, well, what is going to be more productive towards your goals? Like that shift in language and shift in the conversation, I think is very important as well. Because like if you tell people you can't have anything, then that fucks with people's heads generally. Like there's some people that like hard rules sometimes work better for them, but I find that most people are better with a little bit of flexibility. So like for me, when it comes to looking at food or nutrition labels, okay, well, what do I want in that, thing that I'm going to eat? Generally, I want to lean towards higher protein, lower carbs, lower fat. Now, does that mean I never get anything with higher fat or higher carb and lower protein? No, there are some times where I'm like, okay, well, maybe I want something that's a little bit tastier right now. Like my wife and I will go out for cheesecake or something like that. We'll go to the Cheesecake Factory and enjoy.
Mm.
I still do stuff like that because it's important. Food is a very, very cultural thing. And, for millennia, we sat down and had rituals around food. But this also works against us because the reason why we have an obesity crisis today is because we're in a hyperpalatable food environment. And every single thing that we do, we generally have some kind of social convention around food. Anytime you go to a public event, what do they have? They have drinks, they have food laying at the table that's very, very easy to pick at. You're not going to live without this kind of stuff. So you have to have, in my mind, good mental
Oh
models
yeah,
to
and
kind of deal
I'm
with
from
it.
the South, so there's
Right.
nothing down here healthy. Like it's all grease and fried and
Well,
alcohol and like
it,
it's just
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny because, like, if you start cooking some of the stuff yourself, so, like, I did hibachi at home, and I have a griddle out back that, Sarah got me for Christmas, and we made hibachi rice. It is crazy the difference in satiety, which is, like, the general feeling of being full. It's crazy how much different it was without all the oils and everything that they add in, which, like, the oils actually aren't bad for you. It's just the fact that they're a shit ton of calories. So, like, when you have the rice without all the oil and, like, the vegetables without the oils poured on top of it, it is crazy how much more, like, satisfying and filling it is versus, like, when you go out for hibachi or something like that, it's not filling at all because, like, the mouth feel, the texture, and everything is completely different when they do it because they don't care. They're not worried about your diet. They just want it to taste good, which, good on them, but it's not going to generally contribute towards your goals if you want to lose weight. But when you make it at home and you don't use all those oils, then like I said, it fills you up a lot more because the mouth feel is different. So, like, when it comes to being satiated and eating and feeling full, there's tons and tons of different stuff that goes into it. But, like, as a general guideline, I always look at foods and, like, you don't want a high carb, high fat kind of thing because that contributes to, like, it contributes to the hyperpalatability. So, like, when you think about peanut butter, fried foods, you're mixing carbohydrates and fats together, which tastes fucking awesome. But once again, you're getting a lot of calories, and generally those things don't have a lot of protein, which can help you build lean tissue. And protein is also the most satiating macronutrient of them all. So, it's just like a little mental thing that I generally try to make people aware of when they're trying to start watching their food. So, like, you look at like shrimp or something like that. Shrimp doesn't have a lot of it has no carbs, it has no fat, high protein. So therefore that's probably something you want to opt into eating a lot. Leaner steaks like sirloins, fillets, flank steak, low fat, higher protein, no carb. Thumbs up. We like that. Or like when you think about fruits or vegetables, they have very, very low calories, but they have a lot of volume. So like when you eat an orange, that's one of the most satiating foods. Tastes good, very satiating, only like 80 calories for an orange. And the one thing that really like nailed this home for me, a pound of strawberries, which you have to picture is like a bowl full of strawberries, probably like two bowls, is 140 calories. If you get just like a regular can of Coke, that's 140 calories.
Mm.
So, what do you think is going to be more like constructive towards your overall health and fitness? That pound of strawberries or that can of Coke? That can of Coke actually isn't inherently bad for you. It's just that you're not going to say, okay, well, there's, I don't know, 70 carbohydrates that I have to take out of my general like nutrition plan for the day. Whereas, like, if you eat those strawberries, you consciously aware that you ate them. Whereas, like, you could just drink a Coke in a couple seconds and there's, bam, 140 calories gone. So, it's just like little mental guidelines that you can make when you're looking at nutrition stuff and looking at food that you'll generally start to kind of fall in a better direction.
There's also the idea. All right, let's say for me, like when my parents came over a couple of weeks ago, my mom looked at me and she goes, "Wow, you look good. You look like you've lost weight." And I'm like, "I've worked out for like a week." You know, but so the body type does matter to an
Mhm.
extent because I've always had a long, lean body type, right? So
Yeah.
I'm around like 5'10" and a half, 5'11", like
Mhm.
give or take. And I I rolled around at about 165 pounds most of my life from the
Mhm.
time I was 14 till the time I was 40. It wasn't until I hit my 40s that I started putting on a little bit of additional weight,
Mhm.
right? So it's very easy for me to lean down, to lean back down and get down from what I went up to 191 pounds, I think was the heaviest I've ever been. So
Mhm.
it's pretty easy for me to get down from 191 back down to 170 or 180 and kind of look, the part. Whereas some people don't have that body type. I happen to have that type of metabolism, that type of body type
Mhm.
always worked in my favor when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yeah, for me, I've always been a bigger guy. If you look at all my family, they're all bigger people,
You were
specifically on
big.
like my
You were
dad's side.
big. Like at one point, I
Mhm.
don't know if you were working out at the time, but I know you were playing guitar because I've seen pictures. You were a pretty
Yep.
big dude.
250 pounds, and I'm about an inch taller than you, give or take. Yeah, 250 pounds is my heaviest I've ever been. And yeah, it's for me, it's always a struggle to stay a little bit leaner. Like right now, so there's this idea out there, they call it the body fat set point theory. So, the way that I've heard described, and I think this works pretty well, is that your body's almost like a thermostat, right? So, like
Mhm.
for you, your thermostat, metaphorically speaking, was set at like you said, like 165 pounds, right? You generally float around there.
My
So,
body does your body temperature matter? Because I've always like had a very high body temperature.
yeah. So
I
this,
sweat a lot.
yeah, this will kind of make sense here in a minute. So, like, you'd sit right at 165 pounds. Now, if you were to, for you, you would have to like consistently eat a lot more over an extended period of time to kind of bump your weight up, right? So, like
Mm.
right now for me, my general range of weight is like 200, about 200 pounds, like 200 to 205. For me, it takes very, very conscious effort to get below that. So, like, your
Mm.
body generally likes to keep you somewhere, and then it requires a decent bit of like conscious effort to get below that. And then if you stay there for long enough, then your body will eventually adjust to that. This is kind of like the theory. Now, like there have been studies done with people where they would overfeed them a certain amount of calories to see like how their body would respond to it. Some people would consistently gain weight, and it's not that like calories in, calories out doesn't work. It's the fact that like people's non-exercise activity thermogenesis changes upon how much they would, consume food wise. So like there were a couple people in this study where like, okay, they overfed them by 1,000 calories a day and they consistently gained weight. And there was one participant in this study that I'm talking about that didn't gain any weight at all. Now, what the theory was that this dude, his non-exercise activity thermogenesis was just like so high. They call this NEAT, which is basically just like your body's way of burning off excess calories. So like this activity that I'm like moving my hands and stuff, that would be considered non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So like that's actually the majority of where all your like calories out goes. Like exercise and then thermic effect of food, which is like when you eat protein, if you eat 10 calories of protein, then 30% of those calories, so 3 calories are expended through just digestion alone. Like exercise makes up a very, very small amount. Thermogenesis from consuming food and like fiber and protein is a very, very small bit of it. But then most of it is, like I said, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Um, some people, so someone like you who generally is leaner, you probably have like a higher NEAT. So like if I were to sit there and just overfeed you, you'll gain weight, but you're going to fidget a lot more, you shake your leg a lot more, maybe your body temperature will get a little bit hotter. That kind of explains why you probably always stayed a little bit leaner, is because you probably fidgeted a lot throughout your life. And like you don't realize you're
I
doing
go to
it.
the bathroom a lot.
Yeah, but like just stuff that you involuntarily
I have
do.
I have a bladder the size of a pea.
But once again, stuff that like you don't voluntarily do actually takes up the majority of the calories out during the day. So like the reason why people bring up like pedometers a lot. So like I wear a watch
Well, I
to keep
worked out.
track of my physical
Oh, you work
activity.
outside. I mean, you sweat a lot. Like you work
Oh
in a
yeah.
shop, so like because
Not
I've
air
always
conditioned.
I've always been well, but it's not as hot in Pennsylvania. I wonder how much the atmosphere like contributes to that too. Because down here, like it's so humid and hot, right?
Mhm.
And it's like 9 months out of the year is summer,
Mhm.
basically. You're looking at 9 months out of the year is over 80 degrees, and
Mhm.
your res I, I'd say you're averaging about 80% humidity. So you're sweating a lot. Like
Yeah.
I'll take a shower and before I get to my truck, I'm sweating, you
Cool.
know,
Yeah.
because it's so humid and that's before the sun comes up. And then the
Mhm.
sun comes up and it's in the 90s and
Yeah.
it's humid. And I'm dealing with that like 9 months a year. I wonder how much that has to deal with it too.
You your body will generally acclimate, as in like, so what they
No, I
found with,
still sweat like a freaking
well,
hog,
no, no, no.
dude.
I mean, like your metabolism kind of adapts. So, like, there was another study done where they measured the metabolisms of like people who like are hunter gatherers, and I think it was like the Hod's tribes over at much faster
How's
than that
your
of like, let's say your eye.
one second? How's your connection? Because we're getting a little bit of a breakup here.
I could still see you. Did I cut out?
No, it was just kind of spurging in and out.
Okay, no, yeah. I mean, there've been a couple times, but so far it's been pretty smooth as long as
Okay,
we've been
okay,
recording.
okay.
But
I
yeah,
just want
so
to make
like
sure.
they actually measure the metabolisms of these people over in the Hadza, who you would think would have like this insanely high output, but because their bodies are so used to them running, hunting, and doing so much physical activity, that they actually, probably what happens is like they rest a lot more. Maybe like when they're not hunting, they don't fidget as much, but their body generally acclimates to like the amount of physical activity they're doing. And like what they find in other studies when they measure like how much people consume when they do lots and lots of cardio is that like you'll generally compensate for the exercise activity that you do by like 50%. So like let's say you in a workout, expelled 200 calories. Generally, you, like if you were just intuitively eating and not watching what you're eating, you'll generally eat about 100 of those calories back. So when it comes to people trying to measure their calories when they work out, you probably not a good idea because, like, these things are known to be, like, 90% inaccurate. If you see, like, the amount of calories going up, that probably means that you burned a little bit more, but, like, don't take that as gospel. Do not say, "I just ran 5 miles, and that says I burnt 500 calories, so I can eat 500 calories." It's not that it doesn't work that way because throughout the rest of the day, you're probably gonna sit more. And this goes back to, once again, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Like when people go into a caloric deficit, which means you're eating less calories than you expend in a day, um, then people will tend to do less non-exercise activity stuff. So like they may not fidget as much, they may start to blink slower. So like I've heard people who get in like super, super lean condition for like bodybuilding shows that they literally blink
So
slower, they talk
oh,
slower.
so
Yeah.
it'd be like it's almost like whenever it's a snake during the wintertime
Hmm.
where like everything slows down. Like the whole every like all the actions within the body slow. I don't know if you've ever like been around snakes for any experience any extended period of time. I raised like pythons there for years. And
Hmm.
I just know when it would get cold, like everything was like their movements would get slower. Sometimes they would even go to into um like almost like they were hibernating. Like it would just
Hmm.
be like constant sleep and they were barely breathing. And you
Hmm.
would have to put them under a heat lamp to warm them up to get them to move again.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding is like snakes, it takes them a long time to digest things and they eat a lot, but then they don't eat for long
Yeah, they
extended
don't have to
periods of
eat
time.
constantly. Yeah, they could go
Yeah.
months without food. I actually had a rescue I got one time. It hadn't eaten in almost 2 years. And
Jeez.
it was a problem because it was so young and I had to try to retrain it to eat and it ended up dying because I just couldn't get it to eat. But
Man.
yes, they can go a very long time and still be alive without eating. But they're cold blooded.
Mhm.
So when the temperature gets colder, they slow down their body. They
Mhm.
slow everything down. Like their heartbeat slows down, everything slows down. They almost go into like hibernation, like
Man.
where they're not even moving. I've like I was walking one time out in the woods behind the pond and I stepped over a cottonmouth. And the only reason that cottonmouth didn't bite me is because it was 20 degrees outside and it couldn't move fast enough to defend itself.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually never heard that before. That's fascinating. Um, but yeah, your body generally likes to conserve energy. So that's kind of why like having like a step tracker or something like that is good because you can track, like that's one way you can kind of control the output, right? So like you can't control how many calories you're going to burn a day because like you can do so much. You can walk all day, but like generally at a certain point you're going to be resting. So when it comes to like tracking steps, then like, okay, well, this is one way I can control something that I can do consistently every single day. And like when you work out, same deal. Hey, I'm controlling this part in. When you track your food, then you can kind of manage what you're, taking in every single day because we generally, if you're not tracking, then like, you may not take a mental note of like, hey, I just ate 300 calories in nuts when, you walk past the food bowl or something like that, you see open tin of nuts, you just, grovel a few fucking cashews down because they're delicious. But like generally people won't take a mental note of that. And that's where actually like a lot of caloric excess can come from is when you're not consciously being aware of like what you're doing, what you're eating. So like I track my food and that's easy for me because I can be like, okay, well, if I can, let's say, get a lot of protein in early in the day and then leave like the rest of the fat and carbs for the rest of the day, like if I'm going out to eat later or something like that, then like that's a way for me to maintain compliance with my body composition goals. For some other people, then hey, maybe intermittent fasting works for them because I just don't have to think about eating for a certain period of time. And then maybe like, hey, low carb or low fat works for me because I'm going to restrict in this way so that way I can get to my goals here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't even realize it whenever I was younger. I was intermittent fasting without knowing I was intermittent fasting. It
Yeah.
wasn't like conscious.
Mhm.
I always ate like one big meal a day, and then I
Mhm.
would snack a little bit during the day if I got hungry
Yeah.
because I was driving truck. So I had to do something, I had to eat something that I was able to eat while I was driving,
Yeah.
right? And this was they have new rules now where they're required to give you so many breaks within the day. But this was before all that. I
Mhm.
didn't I just knew I had to get from point A to point B within a certain period of time. And the
Mhm.
only way I was going to get from point A to point B within a certain period of time was to snack on nuts or chips or something that would just hold me over just to get me there. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I would grab me something to eat.
Mhm.
Like, and I wasn't thinking, I never thought consciously about what I was eating. Right.
Mhm.
And even, I mean, even to this day, I don't because Beatrix does 99.9% of the cooking. I don't
Mhm.
know. I know what she's putting in the food and all of it's fresh. I mean, she's super big on fresh ingredients, fresh
Mhm.
food. Like that's her thing. And I'm like all for it because it tastes so good, so
Mhm.
much better than what I was eating like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right. Or when whatever I would eat when I was over the road, eating fast food or whatever.
Mhm.
So, but I was never like, as long as I'm busy, I don't stop. Like I said, it's the same thing with cigarettes or alcohol. I wouldn't
Mhm.
stop to eat either. I wouldn't stop to drink. I wouldn't stop to smoke. I wouldn't stop to eat. It was just, I had something to do. I had a goal. I had to get this done. I'm focused. I'm like locked in
Yeah.
on this. So it never bothered me. Whereas you'll see some truck drivers that are huge because all
Mhm.
they do all day long is eat.
Yeah.
But but it was like for me, it was like, well, I'm doing something and I don't want to stop unless I absolutely have to. So
Mhm.
as long as I'm not carrying a shit ton of freaking fatty food with me,
Mhm.
then I'm good. Like I'm cool
Mhm.
because I'm not just going to stop. Like I have somewhere to be, so I'm not just gonna randomly stop just to
Mhm.
get me, a Kit Kat or whatever,
Nah.
we're snacking on today. So like I never fell into the trap of like eating a bunch of junk food and et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. I did. There was a period in my life where I was drinking a lot of Cokes.
Mhm.
But that's because at that point in time, I was drinking Crown and Coke instead of beer.
Mhm.
Like more than I was drinking beer, I was drinking Crown and Coke. So
Mhm.
I would go like, let's say a Sunday, I would go through 2 bottles of Crown and 2 12 packs of Coke,
Mhm.
like watching football, hanging out, just bullshitting, and that's what I would do like on a Saturday or a Sunday. So
Mhm.
I got past that. I stopped. I don't even hardly ever, I never drink. I think I might have one soda a month. I still
Mhm.
drink sweet tea, but you're a Yankee. You don't know what that is. And I drink lemonade, and that's about it. That's the extent of my sugar intake. Like
Mhm.
I'll drink that like maybe 3 times a week, a sweet tea or a lemonade. And that's what I'll, because I'm not a big, my dad, like we have a history of diabetes in my family
Yeah.
and and my dad became diabetic around 40 years old and developed diabetes. So it's like I got to watch some of this stuff. I got to kind of
Yeah.
be mindful of what I'm doing. And so I am. So I keep an eye on it. But here's a question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to environments, right? Let's take Beatrix for instance.
Mhm.
She moved from a drier environment to a more humid environment. Both of them are very hot. It's very hot in South Africa. It's very hot here in Southeast Texas. Does that have an effect on your body in the way that your metabolism operates? Like if you've grown up like from a young age and your body's kind of acclimated to this drier environment and you move to a humid environment, does your body kind of like the way that it interacts with the environment around it, does that change?
No, probably not much. If because generally the way that you expel most of your calories is through, like I said, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, involuntary movements, and then like the main way is through like breath. So like
Mm.
that's not to say you should just go and then you'll expend more energy. Like it's not that, not like that, but it's the carbons from the food that you're eating will eventually kind of work their way through your breath and out. So like the environment doesn't really matter as much. It's more about like the physical activity. And then, if you fidget or twitch a lot more, I know that's a boring answer, but generally like the
No,
environment
it's
doesn't really
fine.
matter
I
that
mean, it
much.
answers
Yeah.
the question. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a general question because one
Mhm.
of the things we've been trying to figure out with Beatrix is because here in the last couple of years, she's gained a little bit of weight, and
Mhm.
granted, she's 44. I mean, she's not a spring chicken, like she's like me. We're all getting a little older and,
Mhm.
our metabolisms aren't working quite like they used to when we were younger. We're not quite as sexy as we used to be. And, so your body's changing and things like that. So she's dealing with a little bit of weight gain. She's trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do to curb this weight gain? So she started working out with me a little bit. She's not as committed to me because she's not as much of an addict as I am. Like I'm
Mhm.
the kind of person that like I turn something on and I just got to be focused in on it and I just have to
Mhm.
focus on it. Because if I
Right.
don't focus on it, I won't do it. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, and she'll be like, "Oh, I'll work out," and then, I don't feel like doing it this week. But the next week she'll just pick it back up. If I go a
Mhm.
week without it, I just won't do it again. It'll be like 7 months
Mhm.
before I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, I felt a lot better when I was working out. Maybe I should start doing that again." Like
Yeah.
that's just like our mindsets are a little different when it comes to that. But like so I didn't know if maybe like the change of environment might have some sort of effects on her that maybe she wasn't aware of, or if it's just
Mhm.
age and just hormones and things are just changing and which is fine.
Yeah, so for women, it's funny because their cycle will actually affect the way that like their weigh-ins. So like the app that I use to track all my food is Carbon Diet Coach, and they have an option if you're a female. They'll be like, okay, well, when is this in your cycle? Like if you're close to your period, then like women will tend to hold a little bit more water around then,
Mm.
and so like that can affect the way that their weight is. But yeah, when it comes for women, it's interesting because yeah, I don't like see a lot of women that are like super into working out like guys are. Like it's kind of interesting to me because like, you know, I see a few women at my gym consistently, and funny enough, actually one of the owners of my gym is a IFBB pro, and she's super nice, super cool, and she's obviously super into it. But like I said, there's not as many women. Um, for women, like between women and men, actually, their metabolisms aren't different. So, like, if you equate for lean mass, because that's also another thing that factors in your metabolism. So, like, in order for my body to maintain all the muscle that it has to have a certain amount of amino acids, a certain amount of nitrogen, and then use a certain amount of those calories every single day to maintain that lean mass. And as you get more and more muscle, then it actually has to expend more and more calories to maintain that muscle. So, if you were to equate, like, if you were to make a woman built the same way that I do, or the same way that I am, that'd be one fucking big bitch. But
I'd
she
climb
would,
that tree.
yeah, oh, I would too. Especially if she had like the nice ass like I do, man. Yeah, I'd be all over that. But if you build a man and a woman the exact same muscle mass, exact same fat, then their metabolism would be exactly the same. But once again, women generally just have a lot less upper body strength than men do. So it's kind of funny because like I enjoy watching Sarah improve in her workouts, stuff like that. Like we're finally starting to work up to like barbell squats for her. And she's always super excited to send me videos of her deadlifting and hitting new PRs, and vice versa. I'm always excited to tell her that, like, oh my God, I pulled this much weight. So for women, generally they like to kind of focus on like the lower extremities, because that's where they feel kind of is where a lot of the like their goods are, so to speak. So like for dudes, obviously we want like, the big biceps, the big chest, and then women want like a nice butt and the nice legs, everything. So but like
I've
as the
never
last
had
couple of years, I've definitely gotten more leg workout.
I've never had big biceps or big chest, but I can tell you, like, I've always exceeded in quick twitch
Mm.
muscle fiber. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I find that, like, it sounds so stupid. Like, people will hear this, but I was talking to Kim Robinson about this. You know Kim, right?
Yeah. We follow
Okay.
each other on Twitter.
All right. So Kim was a K1. He was a professional MMA fighter. So
Mhm.
we talk a lot about fighting and et cetera, et cetera. And because I've been such a fighting fan for so long, we have a lot in common. He's only a couple of years older than me. So we talk about the workouts, right? One of the things I did is I bought a heavy bag. And this may sound stupid as fuck to you because of the amount of time you spend in a gym, but I can
Yeah.
do a 6-minute workout that'll smoke my ass more than anything you can do.
Mhm.
And all it is getting on that heavy bag and throwing a 1-2, do
Mhm.
1 minute rounds, 1 minute of nothing but throwing a 1-2. That's a jab and a cross, just over and over and over for a
Mhm.
full straight minute. I do that I do it 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on. I do it for 6 rounds. Dude, I can't freaking lift my shoulders, right? I can't lift my arms. And I've gotten my wife doing that because it's like the way I looked at it, like I grew up fighting and I always enjoyed fighting. I always thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Like to hit people and to just get engaged in that.
Yeah.
Like that was just my personality. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. Like my friends and I would always go out and spar. I had friends that were training to be boxers and we'd spar in their backyards and we'd fuck
Mhm.
around. And so like I always enjoyed fighting. And so, and this was before Fight Club. So no, they got the idea from us. We didn't get the idea from them. Um, so so I knew if I go and spend the money and I buy a heavy bag,
Mhm.
then I'll use it because there's not one day that I'm too lazy to go hit something. And
Mhm.
I might spend 5 minutes on that heavy bag, but it'll do more toning my arms and just
Mhm.
working off some of the fat and my cardio all at the same time, and legs. Like, you don't realize how much you use your legs until you start hitting a bag, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. Like to throw that cross properly, to get like land that cross just right. I got to
Mhm.
freaking really torque my legs into it, push off, and and you use your legs and your lower body a lot when you're throwing punches. So I figured, like, if nothing else, if it was one of those days where I'm like, I don't want to do anything, I got the heavy bag now. I can just go out there, throw the gloves on, and just start throwing at it. And I'll freaking wear myself out in like 5-10 minutes. And
Mhm.
I would have gotten a decent workout in, a good cardio workout.
Mhm.
My arms are freaking like toning up. My legs are like are burning, and I'm doing something, And I put Beatrix on it. The first day I put her on her, she was like, this is a lot of fun. And I was like, yeah, hitting shit's always fun. So
Mhm.
it's like a workout you can do when you're not in the mood. You don't have a whole lot of time, but you can spend 10 minutes, you know,
Mhm.
and do 3 1-minute rounds, do 4 1-minute rounds, and see how
Mhm.
you feel after that. Like you're gonna it's gonna smoke. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I told you at the beginning of the week, I tweaked my shoulder doing
Yeah.
push-ups. I had done like 7 reps of 10, and I never felt any strain when I was doing the push-ups because I was just doing 10.
Mhm.
So I was like, all right, well, this was within my purview. I'm just going to keep going until I hit muscle failure. And I tweaked my shoulder a little bit and I was like, all right, I have a jacked up shoulder as it is from working physical labor my entire life. So I was like, all right, like, well, I'm just going to kind of take it easy. So I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday. I just did squats. That's all I did. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm going to do 20 squats. That's all I'll do is just keep my legs engaged. And then yesterday I was like, all right, my shoulder's not hurting me any. I'm feeling all right. I did some stretches. Everything felt good. So I just just shadow boxed. I didn't even get on the bag. So I just threw like 50 jab cross and
Mhm.
just, and then I did 50 hooks of each arm. And then I did 50 uppercuts each arm. Dude, my shoulders were smoked because you're not used to moving it that much. It's like
Right.
when I was in the military, one of the major workouts they always had us do was overhead claps. Like
Mhm.
there's no resistance behind that other than your own like arm coming up.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like that's all you're doing. And you
Mhm.
get up to like 200 and you're like, I can't even pick up my arms anymore, you know? And this
Yeah.
was after like 4 months of training daily. You
Mhm.
get to the point where you couldn't even lift your arms anymore. So I
Mhm.
knew if I just moved them around and just did some movements, and yeah, I got on the resistance bands a little bit, did some curls and some different exercises on the resistance bands just to kind of loosen myself up. But yeah, man, I was like, all right, yeah, my shoulders feeling better. I can do a little bit more than I thought I could, et cetera, et cetera. But 15 minutes into it, I was like, well, shit, my arms are smoked. I can't, there,
Mhm.
what else do I need to do? Like I don't need to do anything else because all I'm trying to do is tone up and stay in shape and build up my cardio. I'd like to get to a point where I could run 5 miles again. That'd be nice. I quit smoking. So it's like, it'd be nice to get back on the road and freaking do another 5 mile run and do it in under 45 minutes and like feel good about myself. Be like, oh yeah, I'm in the same shape I was in when I was 20 years old. So
Yeah, there is something I know people talk about like the runner's high, but I don't do running anymore. I was starting to get back into it for a little bit. I would just run like a mile on the treadmill, and I'm still pretty quick for being a bigger guy.
I
But
don't think I could do a treadmill, man. Even
mhm.
like on the exercise bike, it just bores me. I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
do it, but also like I don't know what it is. Maybe you could explain this to me. This is
sure.
something I've always had a question about. Like when I ran, when I was in the military and I ran, like it never bothered me. Like,
Mm,
but whenever I get on that bike, it like my hip flexors hurt. Like it
mhm.
really bothers my hip flexors. And I don't know if it's the motion.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I get like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes into it, and I'm like, shit, man, my hip
mhm.
flexors are killing me, you know?
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
guarantee you I could go out there and jog for a mile and be like, all right, I may be exhausted. I may not be able to breathe worth of shit, but my legs
Mhm.
won't be like killing me.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It could
I
just be
wonder if
like,
it's just emotion. Like just
yeah,
because riding a bike's different than running. Like it's just
yeah.
slightly different motion.
It also depends on like your physiognomy. So like for me, I I'm still a pretty good runner, but I know that like if I run consistently for a long time, then like my hip flexors get super, super tight. I remember I went to the gym the one day after running like 6 miles or something like that, and I could hardly walk. And then I just did the foam roller for a little bit, rolled my hip flexors and everything, and I like was perfectly fine after that. And it was one of the craziest things in the world to me. And I know they've done studies on like foam rolling, and supposedly it doesn't show any benefit. But like, I don't know, for me, even if it's just placebo, I'm still doing that shit because it felt good and I felt good afterwards. That's all I needed to know. And that's kind of like the way that I look at like a lot of these research studies when it comes to like developing muscle and like all the research in the nutrition world is that like you shouldn't treat it as gospel. Just say like, hey, this is what the bulk of the research says, your results are going to vary, but use that as kind of like guidelines to kind of give you suggestions towards what may work best for you. So like there's been a lot of research around partial range of motion, which is well, length and partials, I should say, because like when you think about a range of motion for like an exercise like a bench press, obviously, the most tension is going to be when the bar's down in your chest, right? And then like the least tension is when you're the full way extended. Now the full way extended would be like if you're watching this, my arm is the whole way out. Now, obviously, you're contracted when you're the whole way down here. So, like the idea of partial range of motion would be instead of going from here to here, would be to just kind of go like from here to like right up here, and you're just staying in
Mm.
like the length and position.
I was
And
watching a I was watching a guy do push-ups like that the other day. I'm sorry. You just made me
no, it's
think of
okay.
that.
Yeah.
He was doing the diamond push-ups, right? And
Mhm.
so what he would do is he would start from the up position and he
Mhm.
would come like a quarter way down and he'd go all the way up, right? And a quarter way down. And it was just like a quarter.
Okay.
And then he would do the halfway down
Mhm.
and all the way up. And then he would go all the way down and do
Mhm.
a quarter way up. And he was saying
Mm,
it was working out different parts of his arms and was building that.
yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioning that, like that just reminded me of that.
Yeah, so there's like different heads of your tricep, hence the word tricep. So you have three different heads in your tricep, same deal with your bicep, two different heads of the bicep, and then your quads, your quadriceps, which are your thighs. There's four different muscles there. So like there's going to be specific ranges of motion that works. So like when it comes to working your triceps, there have been I think it's EKG studies on this. So like when you do an overhead tricep extension, when that actually fires the most amount of your tricep and gets most of your whole tricep engaged
And you're
versus when
talking
you're doing
about the
basically like ropes overhead,
yeah,
right?
like I do that with the resistance bands a lot.
Good, good. Well, that's actually like the
I've
most effective.
never once smoked my tricep. I could do dips, I can
Yeah.
do anything. I'll do it until the day I die. Like
Mhm.
my triceps are pretty freaking strong. I don't know why.
Mhm.
I've never smoked my tricep.
Yeah. So you need to put a fuck ton of weight on there and just fucking go to town.
Just go to town, huh?
Yeah. Um, but like, so the idea of lengthened partials is that you stay basically lengthened and you're working out in like your technically your weakest range of motion, and that actually produces a greater muscle building stimulus than if you were to do a full range of motion. So like from let's take that tricep extension for example. So like here, that's when you're under the most stress and it's the most stimulative. So like from
Mm-hmm.
here to here is going to be incredibly stimulative. And then from here, or like from here to here isn't doing very much because it's super easy once you go
So
up
you
there.
don't so the full extension isn't necessary, basically.
It's not actually.
I've always worried about hurting my elbow because like I
So
said, I don't
yeah.
feel a lot when I do it.
Mhm.
And it's like it's one of the muscle groups that are never sore the next day. Like, dude,
Yeah.
if I get out there and I'll do like I sent you my hex bar routine and I'll do that
Mhm.
once a week. I'll do that
Mhm.
once a week. And I'll do that. And for like 3 days, my thighs are on fire. Like
Okay, yeah.
they're just smoked. But my shoulders, my arms, they feel fine. I mean, I feel like I'm stronger, like I've done something.
Yeah.
They're a little bit like tight, but they're not hurt, they're not sore, right? I do triceps, I don't feel shit. Like
Mhm.
or curls. I curl and tricep all day long. I curl I've been when I curl, I do 35 pounds
Mhm.
each hand. And
Yeah.
I don't feel shit like the next day. Like I'll get to the point where I can't lift the bar anymore. I
Mhm.
can't curl the dumbbell anymore. But the next day I'm like, all right, well, I could do that again today. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
like I don't feel nothing. But whenever I get out there and I do that hex bar work, dude, my thighs are freaking
Mhm.
burning. Like for
Yeah.
3 days, I'm like, crap. I'm trying to climb up on those forklifts. I look like a cripple trying to get up on the forklifts on the back of that trailer.
Yeah. So like for those movements, like single joint movements, so basically like your bicep curls, your tricep extensions, let's say even like your shoulder raises and stuff like that, because you can't put an insane amount of weight on them, it's a lot harder to kind of like, really beat the shit out of them. You have to do a lot more volume for those. Whereas like, through your thighs, your lower back, and like your lower extremities, you could probably put a lot more weight through there, like
Is that because
multi
they're used
joint
to
movements.
holding your weight?
Well, yeah, and also they're bigger muscles too, right? So like if you look at the size of my arm compared to the size of my thigh, then it's like, oh, okay, like my thigh is like 2, 3 times the size of my arm.
Yeah,
So
your biceps basically the size of your calf. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Well, my
yeah.
calves are pretty huge. It's funny if you look at my mom and my
Oh, you have
calves.
cankles?
Yeah, yeah, my mom and I both have pretty
So
fucking large calves.
Beatrix has cankles too. Up here, like Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Jesus Christ. um But like for the length and partial stuff, I had Milo Wolf on, who's a researcher. I think he's out of England or no, Ireland. I don't know. I
Mm.
can't fucking remember. But he's been kind of the guy breaking a lot of ground on this. And basically, like, it's not a huge difference between partial length and partials and full range of motion, but there is a difference. And the way that I put to him was like, okay, so let's say, the person this person's eating 3 meals a day and they're doing full range of motion versus somebody who's eating 5 meals a day and doing length and partials. That person who's doing 5 meals a day and length and partials is gonna get like 10% maybe better gains than the person who's doing, 3 meals a day and regular workouts. So it's still you're doing good, but it's just little tiny bit better. So like for the average person, probably doesn't matter because you're just looking to be in shape. You just want to get a good workout in and feel good, look good. Whereas like somebody like me that wants to eke out every last little fucking lean tissue that I can get, that may be, the difference between where I want to be and where I'm at now. So like this isn't something that people should really focus on insane amount, but like, fuck, it's worth giving it a shot. Like I know for me, I'll do the Smith machine, which is basically just like where the bar is fixed in the machine. I'll do lengthen partial squats. So basically from like the point where you're the whole way in the hole and then go like about halfway up and then go back down. And I know after like 4 sets of 12, which is like 185 pounds, I'm like smoked.
Mm.
But then like I could squat 400 pounds, one rep, and then I'm like tapped. But like just doing
So
length and
it's that,
partials, I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
it's that,
fucking kill
it,
me now.
it's that additional resistance that you're putting onto
Well, yeah, you
the
don't ever take the load off essentially. So like
right.
when you're in length and
Yeah.
partials, there's always tension on you.
It's like when I do my sit-ups, right? I have like a sit-up bench and it's one of the incline. Now I could lower it if I wanted to, but I keep it incline because I never go all the way down. I
Mhm.
come parallel and I'm always
Yeah.
keeping that tension on my midsection. My buddy
Right.
Lee that I told you about, he was the one who told me, he's like, yeah, use it like that and then just come down and keep all that tension on your midsection. That's going to help your back, because remember I told
Yeah.
you I had my back issues
Yeah.
from when I was younger. And so he's like, yeah, that'll help your lower back. And actually it has. Like when
Nice.
I don't use it near as much as I could or I should because it's sitting right there in the living room. I could just go jump on it any day. But I
Mhm.
try to mix it up because, I don't want to get bored. So it's like, oh, I want to do maybe like one day a week. And here's the thing. If you're doing like because like I try to do full body workouts. I try to
Mhm.
do something that's like focuses a little bit of attention on everything.
Yeah.
All right. So like one day I'll do like the hex bar workout, and then the next like 2 days later I'll do like bands, and then a couple of days after that I'll get on the heavy bag, right?
Mhm.
And so that's like my 3 days that I'm like doing something. And my legs are continuously in pain for 2 or 3 days, like I was telling you earlier, but my arms feel fine.
Mhm.
So it's like I could do more centralized like workouts for my arms that don't
Yeah.
include my legs, and it wouldn't hurt me any. Is that correct? Like if I
Yeah.
start feeling a little tweak, like I said, I have a jacked up shoulder. Like
Mm.
I know, I mean, I know what parts of my body I've fucked up over my lifetime. I'm 44
Yeah.
years old. I've done all kinds of crazy shit to my body. But
Mhm.
as long as like there's no pain and everything's flowing fine, if I do curls one day, I could come back the next day as long as everything's working properly and do curls again. It wouldn't hurt anything, would it?
No, no, not at all. Now generally like the recommendation is you want to give like a day between each thing because like you can only peak out the muscle protein synthetic response or the anabolic response from working out every like 48 hours. So like if your
That's not what they
arms can
say in the
handle
military.
yeah, but like you could work out a muscle every single day, but um ideally like let's say for your arms, you could probably work out your arms 3 to 4 days a week. But you would want to give like 48 hours in between. Whereas like it sounds like your legs, and this is true for like most people. Generally, most people's upper bodies could take a lot more punishment than lower bodies can. So like
Mhm,
for me, if I train my hamstrings really hard, which are like the all the muscles in the back part of your leg,
mhm.
I'll be sore for like sometimes up to a week almost if I really fuck up my hamstrings. But though like my upper body, I'm generally never sore other than maybe like my back and my chest if I really fucking get after it. So like, your arms, your shoulders, those could probably take quite a bit of punishment before you really start to feel them. So that's why like a lot of people tend to do like a little bit more volume for like their upper body because it's a little bit they could just take more volume. Whereas like leg workouts, that's a little bit more grueling because you generally have to incorporate a lot more of your full body rather than just like bicep curl is pretty easy because all you're doing is this. Whereas like a squat,
No, no,
that
it
involves
isn't. No, it isn't. I
Hmm.
start with the hammer. I start with the
Uh,
hammer and I
uh,
turn as I come up.
okay, yeah, yeah. Well, so that works actually both heads of your bicep, right? Because like pronated, or I'm sorry, pronated and then supinated, are going to train different heads of the bicep. But like when it comes to like doing a squat, let's say you're getting your whole body
Yeah,
involved. So like, when it,
you know why I started doing that? I think you're the one who told me to start doing that actually,
what's that?
because I wasn't getting a full extension down because I was
Oh,
hitting my
right.
thighs, and you said, well,
Yeah.
just turn your wrists, come
Mm,
straight down, and then as you're coming up, turn your wrists towards you.
mm.
So it
I
was
don't know if I
like,
told you that,
I think it was you that told me that. Like, I think it was you and I, like last year, we were talking about it right
but
before
mhm.
Beatrix got bit by the copperhead, right before
Yeah.
everything went to shit.
Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it was
like
you because you're like, because I was talking, I was like, look, I'm not getting full extension. It's like my
mm,
elbows never get straight because I'm
yeah.
running into my legs. And I was like, would it be a problem if I rotated my
Okay, yeah.
wrist?
No.
Like, is that an
Mm,
issue? And you're like, actually, no, that's the best way to do it. You
yeah.
said come from the side of your knees
Mm,
with your hands down and then turn your wrists as you come up, and
yeah.
you're going to work more of your bicep.
Mm. Yeah, so like you really want to when you go the whole way down for like a bicep curl, you almost want to like flex your triceps because that's when you know you're a full extension. So
Right.
like that part where you're fully extended is actually once again the most stimulative because it's the most difficult. So you want to make sure that you have tension down there when you come back up. So like when you see people swinging it, they're the only thing you're doing is hurting your own gains, and I call those front deltoid curls because when you swing, you're actually working the front head of your shoulder. So like your shoulder has three different heads. So you have your front deltoid, your lateral deltoid, and your rear deltoid. But yeah, basically you're only cheating yourself when you do stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you're stopping at the bottom and then using your bicep to curl it back up. So that way you're stretching it and putting it under load at all times.
That's important. That's important. I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that because
Mhm,
it's something I learned when I was in the military,
mhm.
right? When we would go out and we would train, we would do PT every morning, right? We would be
Yeah.
doing push-ups, right? But you're and it's something I was telling my son the other day because he's training that Muay Thai gym. And I was telling him,
Yeah.
I was like, add some resistance to your punches when you're training so that
Yeah.
when you're actually in action, everything's flowing, right?
Right.
And so what we would do is we would put resistance on ourselves. I don't know how to explain it. Do you like tighten your
Mhm,
muscles, I guess would be the best way to explain it. But you
mhm,
you add some resistance to your up and you're down. You come down
mhm.
slow. But
Oh, yeah,
that's
you focus on the
because
concentric.
right. And so
Yeah.
therefore, whenever you're doing your test and you have to
Mhm.
knock out so many push-ups, you can just drop and you're catching
Yeah.
yourself and pushing yourself right back up. You're not using as much muscle when you do the test, but when you're freaking actually like just training, just pushing them out,
Mhm.
you're resisting yourself. There's like some
Yeah.
sort of resistance to yourself. I don't know the best way to explain that, but yeah, you want to like kind of tighten everything up and resist.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
so like
therefore, when it comes to like if you're doing a PT test and you just drop, you just
mhm,
let everything loose and your chest comes to the ground, all you're doing
yeah.
is catching yourself and pushing yourself back up.
Mhm,
You're not using your muscle to come down. But if you use that
right.
muscle to come down and up, you're working more of it. So therefore, whenever you're just dropping and letting gravity work with you, then you can
Mhm,
push out more push-ups. You do the same thing with sit-ups. You like
right.
that's how you beat these tests that they try to put you through.
Right. So like you're actually stronger when you're going down. So that's why you want to make sure like let's say like you're doing a lat pull down. So obviously like your hands the whole way up here when you start a lat pull down. You want to make sure like a 1 second concentric and then a 2 second decentric because once again you're stronger letting it go back up. So you want to make sure that you leave more tension when you're going back up.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling my son when it comes to like because we were talking about because he just like joined a Muay Thai gym and he wants to fight and stuff. And I was like, well, like don't worry so much about looking pretty whenever you're shadow boxing or whenever you're like
Right.
hitting the bags. Put some resistance on your arms, make it a little heavier for yourself because
Right.
because when you're actually letting go in a match, you're going to be, not only do you have those 16-ounce gloves on your hand, then you also have that added resistance, and you're focusing on technique, and you're putting it in the right place. And then whenever you actually start letting it go, that shit's going to flow, man. Those fucking punches are going to come in flurries, and you're going to be able to hit something, and you're going to be able to hit it fast. And that, I've always, like I said earlier, I've always had fast twitch muscles. I've never had big muscles, but always fast twitch muscles. And I've always been fairly strong for my size. Like I could always, like, you would look at me and be like, all right, like this guy. And then I'd grab a hold of you and you'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, this guy, it was like, and you and I had this conversation about like blue collar labor and like what that does to your muscles. Right. And it's just, I notice it when I shake somebody's hand. If I shake somebody's hand, I can tell you, like, this dude's freaking weak as shit.
Yeah.
Well,
because the texture of the hand matters too.
Well, it's not just the texture, it's a grip strength.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I shake your hand, and if you're like dead fishing me, I'll be like, if this dude hits me, I'm gonna laugh at him. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill this guy if he ever tries to throw a punch at me, because like one of the things I do constantly, daily, I'll sit out. I have one of those grip freaking workouts. I love those things.
Yeah.
Just working that forearm. I do 20 in each hand at least every day, and I'm like, there's grip strength is so underrated.
Well,
Like,
what's funny is actually there are longevity studies done, and what they find is actually grip strength has like almost a 1-to-1 correlation with overall mortality. So like the
really,
better your grip strength is, the less chance you have of like all cause, or the lower all cause mortality. That's the right way to say it. The better your grip strength, the lower all cause mortality. Because so like what happens to people in their old age is typically like when they get injured, they're not able to recover, and then they get pneumonia, they get sick, and then it's kind of like like this whole snowball deal essentially. So like
I can't
when
stop coughing, but that's not because I have pneumonia. It's because I quit smoking, and I cannot stop coughing this crap up. It's driving me crazy.
I don't think you've coughed the entire
Dude, I've been
the entire show
coughing
so
this
far.
whole freaking show.
Okay, I must be too fucking retarded to notice. That's totally possible.
I can't. It's bothering me. I'm like, oh, I should have muted my microphone. Oh, I should have muted my microphone.
Now, well, you know what? If I didn't notice it, then either I'm retarded or you did a good enough job of kind of burying it there. But yeah,
I
so
think
like
it's the former.
it's totally possible.
I've known you long enough to know it's the former.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, so like as people get older, it's important that they resist training more and more, and especially like it's even more important that they get actually higher protein intake in, because as you age, you actually develop what's called anabolic resistance, which means you need more of those amino acids to get a protein synthetic response. So like this whole push for veganism, like I think it was Mayor Eric Adams in New York was pushing to have like kids and like all these vegan lunches and everything. And like veganism by itself is not necessarily bad, but the problem with veganism is that you cannot get sufficient protein without a lot of planning in advance, like using lots of protein powders and stuff like that, because plants don't have a lot of like bioavailable protein. They're lacking in the most essential amino acid for our bodies, which is leucine. Leucine is the main driver of muscle protein synthesis. So when you get to about 3 grams of leucine, which is one of the amino acids in protein, that's when you get the muscle synthetic response that tells your body, hey, we need to, assimilate some of these proteins into the muscle. Now, when you eat animal proteins, whey proteins, egg proteins, basically any protein that comes from an animal, it's actually really high in leucine, which, works well with our biology. And like, whereas plants, they don't have a high amount of leucine. So like you have to get generally like plant protein powders or something like that to get a sufficient amount of protein. You have to eat even more like grams of protein in plants versus animal food. So like, a steak or something like that is going to have way, 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 way more leucine than like, let's say peanut butter or like quinoa or peas or something like that are going to have. And as people get older, they have to get even more protein, because once again, their body develops anabolic resistance and it isn't able to trigger muscle protein synthesis the same way that it would as if you were younger.
All right. So there are going to be people that listen to this that'll be like, oh, I tried working out and like I did it for a couple of months and I didn't see anything, or I wasn't getting the type of results I wanted to get. But the body type matters,
Mhm.
right? Which is something we've talked about a little bit here, going back and forth, is like I'm a leaner person. You know, I'm kind of tall and lanky. I'm not super tall, but I'm lanky. I'm kind of tall.
Yeah.
You know, most of my life I was around like 5'10", 165, which is pretty lean, but I was
Yeah.
still strong. And like looking at somebody, you're not going to determine how strong they are, right? And
Mhm.
some people have like a prominence to quick twitch muscle fiber, whereas some people have more of a prominence to putting on bulk, right?
Mhm.
So how do you talk to somebody about not getting too just like feeling bad about the gains that they're getting based upon their body type? I mean, like your body type's going to matter in the way
Mhm.
you're going to see your body develop as you're working out and as you're engaging in getting healthier.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the frustrating part, I would think, for maybe lean people. So someone like maybe with your body type, it might be a little bit frustrating,
I
at
have
least for
no
you. It's good.
pecs. You can't, like, you would not know, like I had
Oh yeah. So like for
any
you,
front strength. I can't put a pec on to save my damn life. You
mhm.
know, it's like it's all heart now. It just
Yeah. So
soaks
like,
into my heart.
mhm. But like for someone like you who's a little bit leaner, it's going to be very, very difficult and maybe almost like disenfranchising to not see immediate results
It can be
because like
discouraging. Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, for someone like you may have to go into like a caloric surplus for a little bit to put on a little bit of fat, but mostly muscle, and just concentrate on the numbers and make sure that like your numbers on your bench press and shit like that's going up to know that you're getting stronger and putting on a little bit of lean tissue. Whereas, like, this is almost a benefit that like bigger people, like people who may be a little bit more on like you're a little bit fatter side, for them, it may be a little bit easier for them to see results because like you can tear off fat way faster than you can put on muscle, right? Your
Mm.
body really does not want to get rid of lean tissue, but it's also pretty damn hard to put it on. So like you get your newbie gains and everything like that, and then like I've heard it put that like let's say your first year of exercise, you'll gain 10 pounds of muscle. The second year, you gain 5. The next year, you gain 2.5. The year after that, you gain 1.25. So, like, over time, you disproportionately gain less and less muscle. But, like, if you're fat, the nice part is that, like, you could see body composition changes pretty quick. And then once you get lean down, then, like, okay, yeah, then we're having a different conversation about putting on muscle. But, like, you can strip off fat pretty easy, but it's super hard to put on muscle. So, like, for the lean people, you kinda got a tough gambit, and, like, if you don't wanna gain a little bit of muscle, then you're probably just gonna have to or if you don't wanna gain a little bit of fat, then you're probably just gonna have to kinda, hold your nose, say, "I'm gonna put in a little bit more calories, I'm gonna consistently work out," and then, not really worry about the weight that I'm getting on the scale, but just focus on the numbers on the bar and make sure those are going up, and that way you're at least moving in the right direction. Whereas, like, for people who are bigger, like I said, the result of seeing the scale go down is pretty satisfying because like, oh, well, I know I'm getting rid of fat. So if you're
Functionally, I was just going to ask, functionally is one way better than the other, right? Let's say the lean guy,
Mhm,
like I could not, there was nothing, I couldn't eat enough food to put weight on. Like I
mhm,
couldn't do it. So let's say the lean guy can't put the weight on. He
mhm,
just can't. But as he's working out, what is happening with his muscles? Like obviously he's getting somewhat stronger. Maybe he'll never
yeah,
get to where he can bench press 285 like you do, right?
mhm.
But he's going to get stronger. And but what is happening with the muscle mass that he is carrying with him?
It's definitely getting developed, but once again, you don't see the day to day to day, especially with muscle, because once again, the amount of muscle that you gain is so small. And, like you're not going to see it on your scale. There is no real way to measure lean mass without gutting you and then measuring it. Like you could do the or not the doubly labeled water, but like the dunk tank and all these other tests,
Mm.
and they get not a perfect picture, but you can get an idea. But, like, just you kinda have to just consistently watch your numbers on the bar And then, if you want, if you're really that concerned about it, maybe take some measurements or something like that. And generally, you just want to see your strength numbers going up. You're
Mm,
going to be putting on lean tissue if you're getting sufficient protein and you're getting stronger, but you're not always going to see it. And there are two different kinds of hypertrophy, right? So you have sarcoplasmic and then oh god, what the fuck is the other one? Um Oh, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. But sarcoplasmic is basically just the fluidity of the muscle. So like higher volume stuff is more conducive to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, whereas the other one, oh my God, this could be so fucking bothersome to me. I'm gonna have to Google it. But the other kind is where you're just basically help building lean tissue. Two types of hypertrophy. I'm sorry, I should know this off the top of my head. Two types of hypertrophy, skeletal muscle. Myofibular. That's it. Myofibular. So myofibular is just like the ability of building just lean tissue itself. You're not gaining size, but you're building tissue. So like when I do my 1 rep max of 515 pounds on the deadlift, that's not going to build a lot of size, right? But that's building lean tissue. I'm building the strength. So like if you want to build explosiveness and then the 1 rep max stuff, you have to practice that. And that's not going to build a lot of size, but it is going to build the strength. You're
mm.
building the tissue, but it's not necessarily like the size of the tissue. When you start getting into like higher volumes, then yeah, you're still going to build that tissue, but you're also building like the general volume. But like as a general guideline, when it comes to building muscle overall, if you're just trying to get like, general size, you always want to go pretty close to failure. So how you know you're getting close to failure, think about a bench press. When the bar starts to slow down, that means you're now recruiting a lot of muscle fibers and you're getting sufficiently close to failure. Going to failure, when it comes to like your biceps, triceps, shoulders, calves, probably not a big deal. But when it comes to like your quads, your back, your chest, just be careful because
Yeah,
there's been
you
enough
could hurt yourself.
you can get hurt. And on top of that,
Mm.
there's been enough research out there now to show that like going to failure isn't any more beneficial than getting sufficiently close to failure. Now, the caveat here, though, is that you're not going to know how close you are to failure until you actually go to failure, though. So I know this sounds weird, but like basically, when you're training, like let's say you're doing curls, you may think you only have like left in the tank and then you set it down. But you don't actually know until you literally go till you cannot pick that bar up again. So
Hmm.
like they've done tons of research studies on this as well, where they found like people when they think they have like one more left, when like they have somebody tell them like, no, 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 go, 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 like keep going, they may have 5 reps left. So you don't always know how strong you are until you actually put to the test. So
That's
should you
something
do it
that
every workout? Probably not.
that's something my son's coach, Mark has
Mhm.
said. He said, when you get to the point where you're ready to quit, you have 50% left.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the
Like,
David
so,
Goggins thing of the
yeah,
40% rule.
yeah. He's like, if you like, once you're ready to quit, then I know it's time to push you. It's like you
Mhm.
still have like you can still do half of what you just did,
Yeah.
and get some gains out of it. And I mean, like, and that's true, man. And that's part of why basic training works the way it does. That's why people hire personal trainers, it's because that stuff does work.
Mhm.
But okay, so let's get back to the functionality versus aesthetic, and then we'll
Sure.
kind of. I think we'll cut this. We'll talk about your band some, and then we'll cut it.
Sure.
So functionally, somebody like my size
Mhm.
versus somebody your size, like functionally, we could probably do all the same things.
Sure.
I could probably, I might have like maybe a speed advantage,
Mhm.
whereas you might have a strength advantage. But whenever it comes to interacting with the real world,
Mhm.
like the real difference is the aesthetic. It's not the
Mhm.
functionality of like defending family and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like it would be more of an aesthetic thing, whereas you might be more intimidating looking,
Mhm.
whereas I might have a like more fast twitch muscle, but it's
Yeah.
because I'm leaner, you're a little bit bigger, you're a bulkier dude.
Mhm.
Like people are less likely to challenge. Is there any functionality that a person might lose by trying to put on that weight and get bigger?
No. No.
No.
So the idea that like you get over muscled is ridiculous because like generally most people do not have the genetics to get big enough that they're gonna have to worry about anything like that. So like when you see someone like Ronnie Coleman, his genetics are
Eddie
like that of
Hall.
yeah. The genetics of somebody that can get that big are like the same genetics as somebody that would be like 7 feet tall. Can it happen? Yeah, but like how often do you see somebody like that? Like my father-in-law is 6'7". He's a fucking giant. He's
Mm,
probably one of the only dudes I know that is that tall. His
yeah.
genetics are just that rare, right? So that being said, and even if you
Yeah.
do get bigger, you
I'm a
could
midget in my family.
yeah, yeah. Well,
My uncle was like 6'8". My grandpa was 6'6". My dad's 6'5". Like I'm 5'10". I had to be tough because these big monsters were gonna kill me otherwise.
yeah, it's funny. Sarah's the midget of her family because she's only 5'8", which is tall for a woman. But though her dad's 6'7", her stepmom is like six.
My dad's mom was 6 foot. She
Yeah,
was
that's a tall
taller than
fucking.
I am.
That's a tall woman. But even if you do get like a little bit bigger in size, in order to be good at any kind of physical task, it just takes practicing that task. So,
Mm,
like, if you want to get good at boxing or having like kind of a little bit more speed, you just have to practice it. And like, there is a genetic component to that no matter what. So, like, my ability to deadlift and do what I do is genetic, but I could still train to get faster, to learn to, swing or hit a bag in a certain way. It would just require time and training to do that.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like
It's just
anybody can
repetition.
exactly.
Yeah.
What gets
Mm,
focused on, what gets practiced is what's going to improve. If you don't practice it, you're not going to improve in that. So and this is kind of what I like about the fitness field in general, especially once you just drop all dogma and all stupid bullshit that influencers are trying to pump in your head all the time. Generally, everything works. Any diet works when strictly adhered to. So the best part about that is do whatever the fuck you want to do what you enjoy doing, and do what you can do consistently, and you're going to get results. That is like that. Why influencers don't push that is so bizarre to me because like it's so freeing because I don't have to tell you you have to follow my plan. And generally, people who do this, it's because they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to tell you some bullshit.
mm.
Anything works when strictly adhered to. So once again, if you can work out 3 days a week and be consistent at that and enjoy that, you're going to do fine. Me, I like to work out 5 days a week now and then I'd like to take my dogs for a walk every single morning and, do some activity in the afternoon and all that stuff. That's what works for me. I enjoy doing that. And then as well as like flexible dieting. So I eat whatever I want, as long as I fit it in my daily caloric budget, that works for me. Let's say somebody else wants to go 6 days a week and do the carnivore diet. I wouldn't recommend it, but hey, if that works for you, you're going to be successful. So, like all the research I've read, if you've listened to my podcast for any period of time, I've broken down so many studies on this kind of stuff. Whatever you can do consistently, if you get into caloric deficit, if you want to lose weight, that works. Whatever diet you choose to do will work. If you want to bulk up, as long as you get in a caloric surplus, that works. If you want to add muscle, all you got to do is get sufficiently close to failure, eat enough protein, and enjoy working out and you're going to gain muscle mass. So it's not that complicated. It's just about what you want to do and what you can do consistently.
Okay. So let's see. How did I want to ask this? Because I had a question pop up in my head and I just
Mhm,
wanted to make sure I asked it properly. Oh, okay. The new guy, the
mhm,
new guy at the gym. All right. I think a lot of guys are afraid to start going to gyms because they're afraid they're going to get laughed at because they don't know what they're doing. They
mhm.
don't know how to lift weights. They don't know how to engage with these machines.
Sure.
And there are people there like you that have been doing it for a long time and they're intimidated. They're like, yeah, this guy's just going to laugh at me.
Mhm.
Like, how do you really have to, like, is that something to worry about?
Not
Like,
at all.
I'm not saying you would laugh at somebody, but
Yeah,
is
but they
that
think
like,
somebody might.
yeah, is it really like kind of like that? Like, is there that gym mentality where you see the new guy come in and you're like, oh, this fucking piece of shit, what's he even doing here? He looks like a fat slob. Or is it more of the, hey, man, good to see you. let's give you a hand. Let's like show you how to like get started.
Mhm.
Like, what's more likely a person going to run into the first time they go to a gym?
I'm gonna be honest, I would say probably like 99.9. I wanna say 100%, but I just wanna leave that little bit of margin of error in there.
There's always somebody.
There's gonna be some cunt somewhere,
Yeah.
sometime. But I guarantee you, if you're a bigger dude or you're going to the gym for the first time, if you ask any guy who looks like he's been doing it for a while, if they'd give you a hand or kind of steer you in the right direction, they would be more than delighted to help you out. Like I love I say it all the time, but like if I could just do the podcast, music, and be a personal trainer, I would be the happiest person on the face of the world. Tomorrow, I would be absolutely delighted because I love introducing people to working out. Like I had a moment of like genuine happiness when I was kind of showing my wife the ropes, right? And then she finally started to get it. And then I saw her like know that she had it. That brings me genuine joy. Like, it makes me genuinely happy to see other people succeeding and getting better in the gym. So, like, when I see someone who is bigger at the gym, I'm like, "You fucking get it, dude. Like, anything you need, I'm right here." I don't talk to people when I go to the gym, but if somebody came up to me and asked for anything, instantly, "Whatever you need, dude, I'm right here to help you
Well,
out."
if you saw somebody doing something wrong and you're like, you might hurt yourself doing that, you probably step in and say something to them too. Hey, man, like
Mhm.
not to insult you, but hey, let's try this, and
Yeah.
put your hands here, and
Yeah,
you,
I
you know,
never I generally try to avoid interrupting people if they're working out because once again, I know how I am, and it's not like it's not like a disrespect thing. It's just like I know you're probably in the zone. I don't want to be rude to you, but like if anybody ever like anytime someone comes to me ask me to spot
but
them,
you could
more than
also
happy to do it.
but you can also tell the people that are new. You know what I'm saying? You've been
Yeah,
going to the gym long enough. You can tell somebody that's not been there, doesn't know the equipment. They're trying to figure out like, how do I use this? You know, and you know,
yeah, yeah. And
so
I mean, like we have a IFBB Pro.
oh,
Mhm.
we froze. There we are. You're back.
Yeah, we cracked up for a second, but yeah, there's like the owner of my gym is an IFBB pro, and I see her training bigger people all the time, and people who just haven't been there before. But yeah, I mean, me, and I'm sure any other guy in the gym who looks like they've been doing it for a while would be absolutely thrilled to help anybody out who hasn't been doing it for a while because we love doing it. So
Mm.
it's like we get to share this gift with somebody else. Like when it comes to music, it's the same deal. I love sharing music with people. I love sharing exercise plans with people. I love sharing this information with people because this has a potential to change your life. And I threw out a tweet the other day. I said, like, fitness, finances, and fucking are way more important than who you're voting for. Which I mean, it was a little bit crude, but it's absolutely true. Like your relationships, the condition of your mental health, your physical health, and then like the way your wallet looks and like your aspects for the future. That's so much more important than this political bullshit. And
For
you know
sure.
what? Maybe it is a little bit my fault for not focusing on that more. But I mean, that shit is just so much more important than all the Donald Trump trials, whatever Joe Biden's doing, whatever RFK is saying, whatever the Libertarian Party's doing. This kind of stuff that we mostly covered in this podcast is so much more important than any of that stuff because Donald Trump ain't going to step in to make your life better. Joe Biden definitely ain't going to do it. RFK isn't going to do it. The Libertarian Party isn't going to do
I
it.
don't
Nobody
know.
else can do that except for you.
I wouldn't be mad if Joe Biden sniffed my hair. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, at least he like gives a fuck. He might buy you dinner. Who knows?
yeah,
He
yeah.
might even take a bath with you.
Hey, you might give me a reach around. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I'd be a little concerned. I mean, if he knows where he's going, he might really know what he's doing. But I don't know, man. I've seen the way he sniffs kids. He's definitely a certain dominance. I almost said dominance. Dominance.
All right. Well, no, I kind of knew that that would be your answer about the gym, because yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of MMA podcasts, and I hear a lot of these fighters talk about when new fighters come in and they commit themselves and they start showing up day after day, and the way that the fighters kind of rally around them and help them out and train them. And I would think it would be kind of the same environment in any gym environment,
Mhm.
so most people that are spending their time investing their time in bettering their own lives are excited when other people start bettering their lives.
Exactly. And
Right.
that you want people around you who are like that, who want the best for you and who are genuinely excited to see people doing good things. So like,
Right.
a lot of our mutual friends, Connor Freeman, Kyle Anslow, and Dave DeCamp, Scott Horton, all them have been going on Judge Knapp's show. And I mean, I'm just like tickled to fucking death for them. I'm like, it's fucking awesome, man. Like you guys
Yeah.
are getting on this fucking enormous platform and you're sharing what you're passionate about. I couldn't be happier for them.
No
And,
shit.
I just fucking all the thumbs up in the world. Or like Reed just yesterday, we actually scheduled a podcast later this month where he's going to talk about his weight
Oh,
loss.
cool.
Yeah, Reed lost like 60 pounds or something like that. And every single time I see something like
Just
that, Adam
working out in
Fitzgerald
the
too.
sun.
Yeah. Adam
Instead of sitting in
Fitzgerald.
a truck all day, he's got to get out of that truck.
Yeah. But Adam Fitzgerald, funny enough, we originally talked back in December of 2022. Since then, he's lost like 50 pounds. And originally, he's like, yeah, my goal is just to lose like 20, 30 pounds. And he's like, my goal was like 240 ish. He's like, I'm going to breeze right past that. And like, genuine
Love that
happiness
guy.
for that fucking dude.
One
Yeah.
of my
It-
one of my favorite people in the world. He's such a
yeah.
sweetheart of a man.
Yes.
He's one of
Phenomenal
the
person.
coolest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, and I couldn't be happier for him. Fucking dudes, he's taller. I think he's 6'8", so he's like an inch
Yeah,
taller
he's
than
a
my
big
father-in-law.
dude. He's not a small guy.
But yeah, I mean, he completely turned his life around. He's like, dude, I haven't weighed this much since I was in high school, and it
Yeah.
was just like one conversation that we had, and then from there he just fucking took off. Like I said, could not be more genuinely happy for him. Keith Knight too. Keith Knight lost a whole fuck ton of weight.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If you look at
Oh, he
some
looks
of
like
his,
a different person.
yeah, he does not look like the same guy. Like
He like lost a person.
I say this with love, but like it looked like the Michelin Man, and now he looks like a fucking Chad. Like fucking dude looks like a stud. Same deal. Couldn't be fucking happier for the dude. So like those are three people in our lexicon that just lost dramatic amounts of weight.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck yeah, dude. Just fucking get after
Just
it.
fucking get after it, man. Just get
I
it.
retweet it and share that for everybody because like we need
Dude,
more
I
of
go
that.
out there, I go on, I don't like, I don't like social media very much, but
Mhm.
I've been making a point to get on X. I try every day. I don't get on there every day, but I've been trying to say, hey, this is day 10, no cigarettes. This is day
Mhm.
11. Like, just to let people know, hey, man, like,
Mhm.
we're all struggling with something. We're all doing
Right.
something. Like,
Mhm.
like, because I know that there are people that watch my show, or thousands of people that are going to watch this video that, they got a problem. They're trying to deal with something. They're trying to get over something, and maybe I ain't got all the answers, but God damn it, changing your mindset, putting your nose to the grindstone and just fucking do it, bro.
Mhm.
You know, just fucking do it. Cause there are so many people in your corner if you're doing the hard shit.
Yep.
If you do the hard shit, people will cheer for you.
Yeah.
That's what fucking matters. Yeah, there are these douchebags that'll talk shit to you for accomplishing something, but while you're doing the hard shit, they ain't anywhere to be seen.
Mhm.
They don't say shit until you've actually done it.
Mhm.
But you can meet a lot of cool people when you're doing the hard shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the real motherfuckers will always be there cheering for you. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
When they're talking shit, even if you fucked up doing it, I still fucking did it. What did you do?
Yeah.
I went after it, and like I
Jack
was on
Murphy still sat around and watched somebody fuck his girl.
yeah,
Like,
man,
he
fucking
did it.
did it.
He did. What
Yeah.
did you do? You
Fuck
watched somebody
you.
fuck his girl.
Fuck you, Sydney Watson. Heartfelt. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you.
I don't remember what question he asked. He asked something about naming something, and I just said cuck with a question mark, and he
Blocked.
freaking blocked me fast.
So my friend Ryan Stone made a ad on his show that was about that whole cuck article deal. And it's funny because it's always a $5 super chat on YouTube that like ends up getting people fucking in all this trouble. So yeah, it was a $5 super chat, and Sydney Watson, can you please clear up the cuck article? And he said, oh, I am not going to talk about this
I
right now.
can't believe you brought that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, why are you doing this to me? fuck you, Sydney
She was like,
Watson.
I don't even know what's going on. I was just reading a super chat.
The funniest part is if he would have just said, "Oh yeah, that's not me," I don't do that anymore,
That's
whatever.
bullshit.
Just let it roll off his back.
I,
Nobody would have cared.
I sucked one dick and it stained my beard. Like, I'm not doing it again.
Well, you know what they say: you build 1,000 bridges, but you suck one dick. Yeah, man.
All right, a common crown. We got news. Let's go.
So Common Crown is fucking rocking and rolling. The first half of this year and the last couple years were a little bit slow, but we released Cry back in January, and our guitar player, who I still love dearly, he still has two of my guitars, so I got to go get him off of him. But great guy, Jay. It was just a task for him to get to practice, and no hard feelings. But we realized, like, hey, we realize this is a big task for you, a big ask for you to make a whole day to just come to band practice. So we respectfully moved on, and we got a new guitar player who is just the coolest fucking dude ever. And he came into practice for his audition, even though he had the gig right off the bat because he was friends already with my drummer and bass player and my singer. Um, his name's Brandon, and he learned all our material, played it fucking tight as could be, which is what we were looking for, and was just super amped up to join the band. So yeah, Brandon joined the band about a couple weeks ago. He learned all the stuff. He's learning the new stuff. We have like 3 new songs pretty much done. Two more on the way, and then we're gonna just keep writing and writing and writing. So I'm gonna say the latter half of this year and most of next year is gonna be fucking enormous for a Common Crown. I'm hoping, I'm not gonna make any promises, but I'm really hoping we have we have an album, full length album, probably like 8 to 12 tracks out next year. I can't promise that, but like that is my goal because I've never put out an album. I put a 4-song EP out, never an album. That's the goal. Brandon's into it. I'm into it. So we have the means to do it. We just got to fucking get in there, keep writing. But yeah, we got some cool shows coming up. So if you're in the southwestern Pennsylvania area, we're doing Rock for Life, which is we're playing June 28th, but it's June 28th and 29th. It's a Friday and Saturday. You could bring your camper out there, come camp for the weekend. I think it's $20 a night, but all the money goes to a charity where we give money to, I think the girl's name is Ruthie, who has um not leukemia. I can't remember the exact disease, but I need to share the fundraiser a little bit more on my own show, which I'm glad I kind of this all came to mind. But it all goes to her. She's sick and she needs the help, so they do this every single year for a child in need. But we're playing 9 p.m. Friday night. There's a bunch of other cool bands coming, so I'm super excited. This could be our first show with Brandon, and then 2 days later, we're opening for Hinder June 30th at the Raindrop Inn in Marionville, Pennsylvania. And then we're going to be back there August 2nd, opening for Flaw, or August 2nd or 3rd, whichever the first Saturday in August is. And then I think it's Thursday, July 11th, we're opening for Drowning Pool. And
It's my
yeah, those
daughter's
are all the
birthday.
shows. Nice. Well, those are all the shows we got
So
lined
we're
up.
gonna
So
let the bodies hit the floor while Alexis has a birthday.
bingo. But yeah, so those are the shows we got lined up, and we're gonna be rolling out some of the new material and hopefully have a new album out next year. I'm just fucking tickled to death because it feels like the first time in a long time that we finally have like that fucking energy back, and
Nice.
we're just gonna fucking crush it. Next year, I think we're gonna fucking take the world by fucking
So
storm. And
I'm gonna ask you the hard questions.
yeah,
Like one of the things that we see, like I've been around the music scene for a long time, like not playing in bands, but just paying attention to bands. And one of the
yeah.
things you always see is when a new member comes into the band, it changes the dynamics of the band and the way that the songwriting is taking place, and it changes the structure of the songs and the sound. So are we getting heavier? Are we getting lighter? Like what's happening with Brandon? Like there's gonna be something different. Like what are we looking at?
Uh, well, I've long said, and this will make sense here in a second, that I'm dragging a Common Crown in a heavier direction, kicking and screaming, whether they like it or not. But
Yeah,
Brandon
you
and I
have
both,
said that. I've heard you say that before.
Brandon and I have a lot of the same influences. So he literally has a plaque on his wall with a Sign in Flames CD. So him and
Mm,
I come from like that melodic metal background,
yeah.
and he also played like a lot of hard rock and stuff like that. So like the 5 new songs that I've written are mostly me, but you know, obviously he's gonna add little bits and pieces in there as well. And you know, we have very, very similar tastes in music and we have very, very similar writing styles. So that was something that both Matt and Steve said. They're like, yeah, I think you two are gonna play together very, very well. And as far
And
as I could tell,
your vocalist, her name's Jenna, right?
Jennifer.
Jen.
Yeah,
So is she gonna be selling Angela soon?
I'm not
She's not gonna be.
following.
She's not gonna be growling, doing death metal.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, probably not. But there's probably be a little bit more screaming, and you know, I would like to get more into like the vocal stuff myself, like do more backing vocals. So
She's
like if you,
good. Dude,
oh,
she's got
she's
a great voice. She's got a
amazing.
great voice. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with like her voice. I'm not a
yeah,
big fan of like female singers, but she's very good. Like
yeah.
I'm
So I always pride myself on this, and I think you and I talked about this when I was on your show for the first time by myself. But the one thing I hang my hat on with Jen is that every single song that you hear her singing on, there is zero pitch correction. She is just that fucking spot on that
wow.
she doesn't need that.
She's good.
Yeah, I remember when the engineer was trying to like pitch correct her, he just stopped. He was like, "Look, I could fuck with this all day," but he's like, "You're so spot on. I can't do anything with this." So, she's just insanely
I'm
talented.
gonna start calling her Janis Joplin.
But she literally did like an acapella album at one point. I
She did a
want to,
country album. I remember you sharing that from
yes,
when she was like 14 years old singing like bluegrass and shit.
yeah. So I want to find that video because she sounds amazing in it, but she could do
Oh, it was
everything and
awesome.
anything.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was great. I remember you sharing it and I remember seeing it.
yeah.
I don't know what
It's
happened to it, but yeah, I
Yeah,
do remember
I
you
see it on my
sharing it.
Facebook every here and there, but yeah, she's insanely talented. But yeah, so we're probably gonna the newer stuff is definitely we have some heavier stuff. So we have a new song that we wrote called Light Me Up, and it's like a Godsmack, Alice in Chains, heavier kind of tune. It has like some harmonies and some real big yarly, if you know what I mean, kind of like chorus.
Well, if you're
Um,
talking, if you all right, so you're talking like a combination of Godsmack and Alice in Chains. So what I'm like kind of thinking like more of a doom style coming into it, more of sludge, kind of
look,
slower,
this particular
heart
song,
heavy
yeah.
riffs, like kind of slower melodies.
Yes. So this
Yeah.
particular song, if you're looking for that, you're not going to be disappointed, I promise. And
Oh, well,
then
I mean, you know me, man.
yeah, yeah, no, you'll definitely like this one. It definitely reminds me of Junkhead. I think that's the song
Mm.
with House and Chains where
Yeah,
you
from
know,
Dirt.
what's
Yeah.
my drug of
Yep. Yep.
choice?
Yep.
Yeah.
What have you
Yes.
got?
It
Mm.
kind of reminds me of that a little bit with like yeah, with a little bit more like Godsmack chugging in it. I'm super excited to play this one out. And like
Nice.
I hear it when I'm hearing it recorded in my head, and I think it's going to be fucking wicked. I think this one's going to blow up. So I can't wait to record that one. The other one, The Fringes, we start off with like a chorus, and it's a little bit more fast paced, with like a real cool heavy ending that I kind of designed. So that one's going to be cool. And then we have one other one that's still untitled that is a little bit more open and more
That's
like
what
the vocals fill it in.
what was that Lamb of God album? I can't remember the name of the album with it was with the song Ghost Walking.
Oh, that was Resolution 2012.
Resolution. That's what I
Yes.
like so much about that album is they brought in that sludge style. And
Yes.
you
Okay.
heard it like throughout the album. It's like just had these chunky riffs
Yeah.
like Sleep or High on Fire would have like put out. And
Yeah.
you were like,
Straight. Yeah. I think a Straight for the Sun, which is that intro track. Dun, dun, dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah.
yeah.
And the whole album just had that tone where it was just like it was, but it wasn't the entire album because they bring in that like
Mm.
Lamb of God sound that
Yeah.
you know,
The
but they
aggressiveness.
would
Yeah.
bring in that chunky kind of I hate God freaking
Yeah.
crowbar. I
Mhm.
loved it, man. I thought that was such a cool album. Nobody liked
Yeah.
that album except for me. I
Now
was like,
I liked some of the tracks, but it felt a little bit more filler than like their usual stuff. But I mean, there's still
I
tons of
just
tracks I
thought,
like on that.
well, you got to remember. Okay, so you got to remember at that period of time, Mike Williams had gotten sick, and he
Mhm.
was in the hospital on kidney dialysis,
Yeah.
and Randy was singing for I Hate God on tour because Mike Williams was
That's
in the
right.
hospital.
Yes, that's
So
right. I
he's
remember.
bringing that freaking influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, this is cool, man. This is cool. Like,
Yeah.
and nobody liked that album. And I was like, I thought it was such a good album. I thought it was so cool. You got
Yeah,
those chuggy riffs that free nobody does that, like sludge
Mhm,
metal. Like there are some really good bands out there that could do that, and nobody
mhm,
does it, like these sludge metal
yeah,
bands do. And it's
mhm.
like, all right, I want to hear it. And Alice in Chains was one of the only mainstream bands to bring that to a mainstream audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. So like I think of and I know it's William Duvall, but Stone. Bow, dun, 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 dun,
Mm,
dun, dun. That was like I remember hearing that on the radio all the time, and I remember the first time I heard that, I'm like, oh yes, like
yeah,
that's what I'm fucking looking
because
for.
it's like it's dark and you're getting into it,
Hmm.
man. You're like
Yeah.
getting into that grit. Like,
Yeah,
because life
I
is
love that
gritty
stuff.
sometimes, and sometimes you just got to get into that grit, like Hatebreed
Yeah.
has a place, and
Mhm,
freaking, like you're wearing a Trivium hat. Trivium has
mhm.
their place, but man,
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to get gritty. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just time to get your hands dirty and freaking dig into it,
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
so I know Hell Yeah is a little bit controversial, although I love all Hell Yeah stuff, but there's a
I saw
song,
them live. I saw
yeah,
them
I saw
live.
them
I saw,
twice, I
I,
think.
I saw them with Lamb of God.
Yeah, I think I saw that tour too.
Silosis played that
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
Silosis was so good.
Yes.
God, I wish that
I
band would come back. Whatever
no,
happened to them?
they're
They just
back.
disappeared.
They just put out an album not too
Dude,
long
they
ago. I
were
would say
so good. They're
yeah,
young, but they're good.
their newest album's really good. I think it
Oh, I
literally just came
bet.
out within
Their
like the
first
last
album
6
was
months.
freaking amazing.
Yeah, all their newer stuff is really good. I've been
Yeah.
super into it. Cycles of Suffer or no, that might not be right. I think it was Cycles of Suffering came out in 2020, and then their newest album, Deadwood, I think it is, came
You
out
just have to
like
send
just
it
a
to me.
couple months ago.
Send it to me.
Yeah,
I'll listen to it.
killer,
They
fucking
were
killer.
so good live. They
Yeah,
were like I saw they were on the ticket, and so I
yeah,
listened to them before I went to the show, and
mhm,
then I saw them live, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're so good!" They're like from
yeah.
Ireland, isn't that right? They're from Ireland. They're from
I'm not sure
overseas
off the
somewhere.
top of my head. Yeah.
They're from Europe somewhere. I thought it was
Okay.
from Ireland, but it could be any number of places
Yeah,
because
them fucking
Europe's not small.
yeah,
So
them fucking Europeans, man. They write some good
they were
fucking metal.
good though, man. They were
Yeah.
really good. Their album's good. They're good live. They sound
Mhm.
really good, tight. They're like really tight
Yeah.
sound. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing them play. Um, yeah, who else was at that show? It was
Was
Lamb
it
of God,
was it In Flames in that show? I feel like they were, but maybe I'm
not
wrong.
in Houston. I've never seen In Flames.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
I've seen them 4 or 5 times.
I was never a
Uh,
fan, so I never cared.
okay. I feel like there was
And
somebody else on that tour.
yeah, there
Uh,
was somebody else, and I'm trying to remember who it was because it was Silosis, Lamb of God, and Hell Yeah. And I want to say there was another band that played, but I can't remember who it
no, I
was.
know that tour, Silosis, hell yeah, and Lamb of God
Hell
tour.
Yeah was the headliner. Lamb of God was the co-headliner.
Oh, it was Hatebreed. Oh no, hold on. Okay, yeah, no. Okay, yeah. Lamb of God announced fall 2012 tour with In Flames, Hatebreed, Hell Yeah, and Silosis. So let me
Well,
see.
maybe In Flames was there. Maybe I just don't remember that.
So Houston, Texas at the Bay or the Bayou Music Center, and then Dallas,
Yeah.
Texas at the Palladium Ballroom.
No, I saw him at the Bayou Music Center, which was at the time it was the
Okay.
Verizon Wireless Theater.
Okay. Yeah, I literally just Googled it. Yeah, so I would have seen them.
Because I swear I saw Rob Zombie play there too.
I saw that. Okay, yeah, it would have been November 27th, 2012 that I saw them. Wow, yeah, that was a long time ago.
2012.
Holy
I
fuck,
want to say
12 years ago.
Jesus, was it 2012?
Yeah, fucking 12 years ago, dude.
Shit. Okay.
Holy fuck.
Fuck. Okay.
We're getting old, dude.
Oh shit. Because
Jesus.
I saw it was the same year I went and saw Death Clock.
Oh, Death Clock, Machine Head, All That Remains, and
Yes,
Black
yes,
Dahlia Murder.
yes.
I was at that one too.
House of Blues. I got kicked
Yeah.
out of that show. Some dude, no, I was okay. So I brought a couple of friends of mine with me. There was like, all right. So one of my buddies who's this big ass fucking dude. He's like 6'6". He was a big dude. I don't talk to him anymore. But it was his cousin,
Mhm.
her boyfriend, and then this chick I was dating. And we're at the show, and this guy walks through and he pushes the two girls.
Mm.
And we're up on a balcony. So he pushes them up against
Mm.
rail. And I'm like kind of far away, but I see
Yeah.
what's going on. And I'm like, hey, you fucking faggot. And like I start talking, I'm like, fuck you. You're not gonna push on chicks like that. Like, no,
Yeah.
fuck you. And so security grabs me and kicks me out. And they said, here's what they said. They said, we knew you were gonna be a problem because you had fucking bought so many drinks.
Ha!
What was going on is I was driving over the road at the time. This was on one of my weeks home. And
Mhm.
I had all this money stacked up. So I was buying drinks for everybody that was with me. They
Mhm.
thought I was drinking all of it. I was like, dude, I'm buying 6 drinks at a time. There's no way I'm drinking that in an hour. Like, so
Mhm.
yeah. So they ended up kicking me out because I went after that dude that pushed that girl and my friend Kat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cause I was like, fuck you. And her cousin was standing right there. He didn't even say anything. He was like twice my size. I was like, dude, you should have fucking said so. Why am I the one getting kicked out of here? For you were standing right there when the shit fucking happened. I'm about to beat your ass for fucking not doing nothing.
Mhm. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm surprised I haven't been thrown out of any.
I'd already seen Machine Head. Death
Mhm.
Clock was 3/4 of the way through with their fucking set. So when I got
Mhm.
kicked out, it was like no big deal. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I don't think I stuck around for all Death Clock set because, like, yeah, they're talented, but I don't know. I just can't get into like the strictly like watching the TV set.
I was there to see Machine Head.
Yeah.
This was before they went all like retarded fucking political and shit.
Well, yeah, I mean they kind of
Before
always
Rob Flynn,
were.
well, before Rob Flynn was synonymous with pussy,
Yeah.
I went to a Machine Head show.
Well, you know what really fucking pissed me off about that whole fucking saga is that, and this was in the Dimebag Daryl biography. Dime was all hammered the one day and grabbed one of Rob Flynn's guitars and fucking broke it, right? And this is, I want to say it was the 1994 tour when
Is this why
Pantera
he's
took.
always talking shit about Phil?
Oh, I'll get there in a second.
Okay.
So Dime got all hammered and broke one of Rob Flynn's guitars. And like what had happened was after that is that Dime sent Rob a Dean from Hell and a bottle of Crown and said, dude, I'm so sorry for breaking your guitar. Here, take this. And this was in 1994 when Machine Head was on tour. It would have been Far Beyond Driven, and they had Machine Head opening because they just released Burn My Eyes, which was their first album.
Mhm.
So you think about that and it's like, okay, well, Dime, everybody
Okay,
knows
wait.
Dime was like,
Well, let's. You're the guitar player, so compare the guitars. Like he sent him a Dean from Hell,
I
compared to
don't
what
know.
Rob was playing at the time.
I don't know what guitar it was that he
Yeah,
exactly
but
broke.
what is a Dean from Hell? Like, explain that to people. Like, I mean,
Okay,
that's
okay,
a
I'm sorry. Yeah. A
great
Dean from Hell
guitar.
is like, yeah, it's a beautiful guitar. So picture like it's like the Explorer essentially, but there's like the cutaway on the lower part.
Mm.
And if you
And
look up a Dean,
that's for you hitting the high solos.
well, like the cutaway down at the bottom, it looks like an Explorer in I can't think of like a good way to describe it. Basically, like there's the two like the V shape at the bottom, and then you have like another V that goes up like towards the neck of the guitar. And the Dean from Hell is like blue and black and has lightning on it. And that's like Dime's signature guitar because he actually won that guitar in a guitar competition
Hmm.
back when he was a kid. And he sold that guitar to get a Camaro, if I remember correctly. And then his dad went and got the guitar back because he knew that Dime wanted the guitar. So then Dime had that guitar since he was a kid. And then like that became his signature guitar, the Dean
Hmm.
from Hell. And then, once again, he broke that guitar from Rob Flynn when they were on tour, sent him, and he actually sent Logan Mader, who was the other guitar player for Machine Head at the time. He sent them each a bottle of Crown and a Dean from Hell. Now, fast forward decades later, when Pantera did tons of stuff for Machine Head and took them out on tours and stuff like that.
Right.
Phil is Phil, and should he have threw up the Sieg Hell and said white power? Probably not, but
That was actually taking out of context.
he was
Like,
drinking white wine.
well, it's not even that.
Yeah.
There was a dude there that was in the audience that was heckling him, calling him a racist and a white supremacist. So he was drunk and started talking shit back to the guy. So he
Oh, I
just
didn't know
like,
this.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
fucked with him. Well, you know what's funny is I remember seeing a story of Zach.
Because what was the guy that was they remember that the metal show, right? It was the three comedians that were all metalheads. The dude from
Brian Posehn is one.
yes, yes, yeah.
Jose
Eddie
Mangan.
Trunk.
Yeah.
Eddie
Eddie
Trunk.
Trunk, yeah.
Eddie Trunk had started his own podcast. He had Phil on his show to talk about it, and they played all the clips and talked about exactly what happened.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, this was
But
years ago. I
yeah,
remember
no,
it was years
I
ago.
yeah. So this would have been around like 2014 or 15 because
Yeah, it was
he
it was
released Machine Head released as Anybody Out There, and that was
but
and the
then
one
they started doing the whole freaking anti-gun legislation and
oh yeah, and he was a
like
Rob Flynn
they
was a
just went
useful
off the
idiot for that.
deep end.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, whatever.
Um so I remember seeing an article from Zach Wild, and he was like, Phil, what are you doing, man? He's like, the Phil I know is the most loving, sweet dude who gives to charity that
Right.
I know.
Right.
So Phil doesn't have a fucking racist bone in his body. Like
Right.
he's played all over the country, all over the world for all different kinds of crowds of people. So, but like for Rob Flynn to turn around and say, fuck you, Phil Anselmo, I'll never play another Pantera song in my life. Go fuck yourself, dude. For the band that fucking took you out on the road when you guys were nobodies. And not that, I mean, they would have been somebody eventually because Machine Head's fucking talented. Like Rob Flynn is a great singer and a great songwriter.
I
But
love
like,
their
oh,
early stuff, dude.
everything from the Blackening Back, and I mean, actually, I love all their stuff, even Catharsis. But like, I get it. Some of the lyrical content is shit, even from some of the stuff that I really like. But like, don't turn your back on the legacy of
Davidian was such a
Pantera.
great song.
Oh yeah, dude, that whole album,
Like,
old, um,
dude,
Ray
like
or
Locust, like just such a good
yeah,
song. You know, like it's
yeah.
like they had some really legendary songs. Even
Mm.
their they did a cover of that
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed Be Thy Name. Dude, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Excellent.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, come on, man.
Don't
Just
be a cunt.
like just yeah, well, it's like, why do you want to like chase off half of your audience? Because you're good, dude. Like,
Yeah.
we love your music. Like, I
Yeah.
went and saw you as a co-headliner,
Mhm.
you know, and I paid the like $40 to see all these bands. I never heard of All That Remains or the Black
Mhm.
Dahlia. I didn't know who these bands were. I knew Death Clock was because my roommate watched the cartoon, but
Yeah.
like I didn't care about any of those bands. Only band I wanted to see there was Machine Head. And
Yeah.
then like you start acting like this, you
Well,
know?
I've found that Phil Labonte from All That Remains found like a good split for his politics versus like his music, where he doesn't like insult the people who necessarily disagree with him in his music, and he's able to like separate the art from the artist, which I really appreciate about him. Where like Rob Flynn wrote that song "Bastards," and it was just
Mhm.
like it was like a folk song, and it was catchy, but like the lyrical content give a what
But it was just a
the one
middle
line, give us
finger to
all your
anybody.
Muslims, all your niggas, and your spics. We'll bring them in with open arm. Yeah, it
It was
was a
just
middle
a
finger to
middle
people like
finger.
us.
It was just a middle finger to anybody who lived in rural America. It was just like, yeah, screw you people. We don't care. Okay,
Yeah,
fine. You don't care. I'll stop buying your fucking content. All
yeah,
right.
man. Like
You know,
you didn't have to die on that fucking hill. Like you can have your personal opinions and even be vocal about them.
and nobody cares.
Yeah, but then when you make your music about saying fuck you to those specific people, like
Right.
come on, man.
You're insulting your fans. And now it's like,
Yeah,
okay, all right, then you don't get my money. How do you
yeah,
like that? You know?
exactly. Yeah, dude, fuck all that.
So, I mean, that was kind of how I felt about him because it was like I didn't even get offended when him and Phil had that fallout because I was kind of like, well, Phil was acting like a dumbass, you know,
Yeah,
and we've all acted like dumbasses. We've all done
yeah.
stupid shit, you know, especially when you get drunk and you
Mhm.
know, like whatever. Okay, fine. Phil was acting like a dumbass. He admitted he was acting like a dumbass. He went on the Eddie Trunk show. He had that conversation. They showed the clips. Like you could hear the dude out in the audience heckling him, and he started throwing up the freaking white power sign and all this. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, He was
Mhm.
drunk. Okay. He did it. He's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it like that. I was just he was like, my thing was I was attacking that guy. I didn't think it would have any repercussions outside of that. But you got to realize like the era that these guys came up playing in,
Mhm.
there weren't cameras everywhere. So you
Yeah.
do shit like that to get back at your audience members that were acting like douchebags. Now
Yeah.
you can't. Now you got to kind of be a little bit more careful. And he's
Mhm.
aware of that. And so you ain't heard shit like that since then. I've seen
Mhm.
him in live in concert 3 times since then. And he
Yeah.
ain't ever done shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well,
all right, whatever.
I
They
I
just
I
did
know.
those whole Pantera tour.
Mhm.
You ain't hearing no shit like that.
Yeah. Well, and I know people poo-poo the Pantera thing, but like to me,
Everybody I've talked to that went, I didn't get to go. I had tickets. I didn't get to go
yeah.
because Beatrix went and got herself bit by a copperhead, that freaking seductive bitch. But um but everybody I've heard talk about it said it was really good,
Yeah.
and when I talked to Matt Brown, he's actually friends with Zach Wild. He's friends with
Mhm.
all these guys. And
Yeah.
and he was saying he enjoyed it. He was like, I loved it. And he was
Yeah.
there at the Damage Plan show when Dimebag got shot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's been Pantera fan as long as I have. He's
Yeah.
43, I'm 44. So we've been following music on the same level
Right.
for the same amount of time. And he loved it. He was like, it was great. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I look
And
at
I
this.
imagine it's so much fun, especially for people coming up, like Gen Zers that are coming up and hearing the music for the first time. They get
Mhm.
a chance to see at least a piece of the band. That's
That is
so
my whole thing.
cool.
Yes. Well, and that's because I never got to see Pantera. They're my favorite fucking
Dude,
band in the
I'll never
world.
get to see Zeppelin,
Right.
right?
Well, yeah,
It's
but
like I'll never get to see, like, I got to see, like one of the coolest memories of my lifetime. I
Mhm.
saw Sabbath, the original members of Sabbath.
Yeah.
That is so cool,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
like I'll never get to see Zeppelin. I'll never get to see like some of these old bands
Mhm.
that were around for like that my parents were listening to when I was growing up. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And like shaped like the way I listen to music.
Yeah.
But I got to see Sabbath. So
Mhm.
anybody can be like, I got to see Pantera
Mhm.
that's like 22 years old. Fuck
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Well,
Like,
and see, like that's my whole thing. People poo-poo it, but it's like you realize there's generations of people who never got to see the original Pantera. And yeah, like they're not as crazy as they once were because I'll I'll die on the hill all day, every day of saying Pantera was the best band to ever walk the face of the earth. Because in the 90s, just
down with.
watching those shows, it's like they were on another level. There
Down
was
was
just
better.
nobody that could fucking touch them. And just watching the presence and the crowd go
Down could
fucking
touch him.
nuts. Yeah, yeah, that was pretty good. But, like, just, for people like me who never got to see it, it's like, "Hey, we're giving this gift of music to you because you guys never got to see this." And Zach, I think I sent the interview over to you, but Zach's like, "Man, I see Dime everywhere." He's like, "We're just jamming, doing sound
Yeah,
check, and I
you
see a plate
did.
that's"
Yeah,
yeah.
you sent
He's
me
like
that.
he's like, "I see a plate that says 333 right there." Or, I look over here and I see a Dime t-shirt or just something that tells me Dime's watching over me, and, like, that was
So
powerful.
cool.
But then you think about it and it's like, now people like me, once again, people like me, people who never got to see Pantera growing up now get to share that with people they
Well, and
love and see it themselves.
and here's the thing. Like, okay, so Zach Wild is not Dimebag, and he's
No,
never claimed to be Dimebag.
no, never.
But he knew Dimebag and he loved Dimebag, and he would never do anything to disrespect what Dime did.
Yes. Well, and did you know Dime actually had the Black Label Society album, like that whole skull? He had that tattooed on his forearm.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I
I
mean, they were
mean,
like brothers.
go listen to the live piano version of "In This River" and tell me that dude did not love Dime.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
don't
just
yeah, do not don't have anybody around because you'll be cutting
you'll be
onions. It's
crying
hard.
like you watched like where the red fern grows or Old Yeller.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
do
know,
not watch that music video around your wife because she'll leave you because you will be bawling like a little
you'll be
girl.
a
I
pussy.
yeah. I could still watch it every single time and I'll be like,
Dude, it's beautiful when he played it at his
oh baby.
funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous. And it's like, how do you say this dude doesn't give a shit? Like,
Yeah.
if anybody cared about the way this song sounded, you know, and then you got Rex Brown, who left Down because of he had he had liver failure, and he had left Down, and started another band shortly after he left Down called Kill Devil Hill.
Oh, they were good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And then oh, what's the guy? Benante.
Oh, Charlie Benanti. He's from
Yeah, Charlie
Anthrax.
Benante.
So yeah,
Like,
they always considered Donnie the
he's
sixth member of
yeah,
Anthrax.
exactly. Like they
Yeah.
knew they loved this guy. They were all
Yeah.
friends. Like these guys aren't insulting or are going to like treat the music or songs like something they aren't. Like no matter what you think about Phil, you can think whatever you want about Phil. I don't think he would disrespect the songs either, you know, but some people don't like Phil, and I get it. Okay, fine. You don't like him. He's got a strong personality. Okay, cool. But you got to understand these dudes that are coming into this project, whether Rex or Charlie or Zach, loved Don. Period. They all loved him.
Dime and Vinny. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think they would do anything to make the songs any worse than they were supposed to be. You know, they're going to try, they're going to legitimately do what they can to make the song sound as close to the original as possible. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think Phil feels a great burden on himself because he didn't make amends with Dime and Vinny while they were still alive.
Yeah.
And I think that weighs on him a lot. And I think that he feels
I think this is kind of like an apology tour.
Right, because the show is all about them. So like when you go,
because remember he was trying to talk Vinny into doing it before Vinny died.
Yeah, but
he
Vinny,
wanted to do something, and Vinny refused. He was like, "I will not work with that guy again."
So when they open up, they play Regular People Conceit off of Vulgar Display of Power. And like it's just a montage of Diamond Vinny from like the home videos and stuff like that. And then right when like the song ends and they finally start to like come out on stage, it's just like the silhouettes of Dime. So like I don't have my necklace on, but like I have like the necklace that has the silhouette of Dime holding his guitar up like that. It's silhouette of Dime and Vinny. And it's just like
that's like one of the most legendary Dime pictures.
Exactly. So then then like halfway through the set before they play Planet Caravan, they play Cemetery Gates and they have another montage of Dime and Vinny. It's just the intro to Cemetery Gates and they just show
and he said from the beginning this was a tribute.
This is for the brothers.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like I was kind of skeptical about Charlie Benanti playing those parts, but
I was too. But you saw it was really good.
Yeah, he killed it. So I mean, it fills my heart with joy to see,
because I think the fact that they knew the guys and they loved the guys, like they feel like obligated to fill those parts properly. Like that is not the way Charlie Benante plays drums.
No, not
but
at all.
He was willing to do it and to learn it, just like Zach Wild doesn't play guitar like Dimebag, right?
No, Zach's he's a dirty. Not like in a bad way, but like he has this dirty style.
Yeah,
real wicked, fucking hard-handed kind of playing. Dime was smooth as silk. If you listen to his legato, it's flawless. And like Dime still had like his rhythms were real fucking gritty and aggressive, but his leads were smooth as could be. Zach fucking is stepping into like both. Charlie's a thrash metal drummer who's stepping in to play like groove metal with very specific beats and stuff like that.
Right.
Zach's going from playing hard, beat the fuck out of the guitar.
But what I was saying is, I think that they love these guys so much they felt like they had to honor them.
Yes,
and that's like special, right?
Yeah.
Like these people left a special, like imprint on their life. You know, like I'm not a big Anthrax fan. I'm not a big thrash metal thing. That's just not my style. I'm more into the progressive or groove kind of styles.
Sure.
And so but I'm not going to insult Charlie Benanti because like, I know like the way he felt about Dime. I know the way he felt about Vinny, that it's like, all right, he has the motivation to do it right, you know? And I love Zach. Like I've seen Zach play 6 times, dude. I've seen him live 6 different times. It's so much fun. It's like an hour and a half long solo with a couple of songs sprinkled in. It's so much
Yeah.
fun to watch him play.
Mhm.
Like it's such a pleasure to see Zach play. And he's just a monster, man.
Mhm.
He could do whatever he wanted on that freaking guitar. And
Mhm.
like nobody's gonna like tell him otherwise. So I never thought that he would do wrong by Dime. And I've seen a couple of videos that have come out from some of the shows, and they sound good. And
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
Phil
it doesn't sound like Pantera from 1994,
Mhm.
but they sound good.
Yeah. I mean, Phil sounds the best he sounded in like a decade because about a decade ago, he was sounding pretty rough, but I think he's
Phil,
came back.
I've seen Phil 6 times
Mhm.
with Down.
Yeah.
He's always sounded good with Down.
I
Always.
know
He
back in like
can't hit
2000.
he can't hit the high notes anymore because he's
Mhm.
had vocal surgeries.
Yeah.
So he can't go high like he used to with like Cowboys from
Mhm.
Hell and shit like that.
Yeah.
But he's got a good voice, man.
Oh, he
It's like
does.
smooth and
Mhm.
like he can hit those blues notes and freaking
Yeah.
get gritty and
Did you ever listen to Southern Isolation?
yes. Yeah, it was
Okay.
so good with
That's a
that
s
chick.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
super, super, like, niche thing that not a lot of
Yeah.
people know about.
Yeah.
It was like a little country
So
project that he did
good.
that was
Yeah.
really good.
It was
But
really
yeah,
good.
like, I
Yeah.
remember seeing Down in, like, 2012-ish, and I
Well, do
remember
you
his
remember
voice.
he was doing that project with Mike Williams where Mike Williams was doing the vocals and Phil was playing guitar.
Arson
Um
Anthem?
yeah, Arson Anthem. That's it.
Yeah.
Arson Anthem.
I never
And
listened
then
to
he
them, but
and
yeah.
then he had a well that was a it was like more of a punk style. So he
Yeah.
had Jimmy Bauer from I Hate God, who was
Mhm.
the guitar player for I Hate God, but he was the
Yeah.
drummer for Down,
Yeah.
played drums for Arson Anthem, and Hank the Third was in Arson Anthem.
Okay, yeah, he used to play bass for Superjoint Ritual too.
Yeah, well, he was
Mhm.
also in he Hank 3, which is
Mhm.
all like classic country style, but he
Yeah.
also had Ass Jack, which was a punk band
Mhm.
that Hank the Third sang for. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was like this whole kind of like thing going on here that and then Phil also had a black metal band that he was like playing guitar for. I can't remember the name of the band, but there for a couple of years he
Yeah.
played guitar for a black metal band too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
know
so
what I know
Phil's
the
always
project you're
like
talking
dipping
about.
his toes into all kinds of different things. Just go
Yeah.
look up Housecore Records and all the
Mhm.
different bands on it. Like they had Evile, which was a badass band. If you
Oh, dude, their first EP, I think it was All Hallows Eve was the EP. I think it
yes,
was yeah,
yes, it was
fucking incredible.
so
Their
great.
first album or their third album, their last album that they had, with their bass player Mike, Five Serpents Teeth, fucking badass. Yeah,
Right.
Infected Nations was their second, and then
And then
I forget their first, but their fucking discography is amazing.
Pony Killer was another band off of Housecore
Yeah,
Records, which
yeah, I'm
was
not
kind of
familiar with
like
them.
this trippy psychedelic kind of
Mhm,
like California's. They were good though, man. It was fun. It was
mhm,
interesting. Like Colin, the lead singer's name was Colin Yeo,
mhm,
right? So like, I met him at one of the Down shows,
mhm.
and then they had Harp and Honky.
Yeah.
Do you know the band Honky?
I know Harp.
Dude, go check out Honky Gravedigger. You'll
Mhm.
love it. It's so good.
Okay.
You'll love
Fuck
it.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll just be jamming out. You'll be like, oh yeah. I've seen Harp open up for Down. I've seen Honky open up for Down several times. Yeah, man. Like he had a few bands signed to Housecore Records. I don't know if he's still doing anything with it, but one of the bands that he had signed to it was Arson Anthem. And another one was the black
Mhm.
metal band that he was jamming with. And I can't remember the name of the black metal band. But yeah, it was cool. I'm not a black metal fan, so that's why I don't remember. I didn't spend much time like paying attention to it. I'm not a black metal guy. But yeah, man,
Mhm.
like he's just creative and he wants to do all kinds of interesting things. And you know, you know how it is. You're a creative guy. I'm a creative guy. We get ourselves in trouble sometimes. We say
Yeah.
things, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Say
like,
things. Well, you know what?
well,
My
especially if we get offended. Like if somebody's like attacking our creativity,
Mhm.
it's like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna fuck you up, and I'm gonna find the, you know, and so we'll say some shit, and yeah, I've done it. I mean, I've gotten myself in all kinds of bullshit, you
I mean,
know.
I always one of my latest sayings now is that I could have had a pension, but I decided to be a retard on the internet instead.
Actually,
I should have
it's
waited.
actually really close to the truth.
It pretty much is, man. It pretty much fucking is. I was on a on my buddy Jack's show, Red Evening, and I met this dude Rob for the first time. He's a fucking awesome dude, just chill as the day is long. And I put it that way. I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, so whatever you write your memoir, it's gonna have to be. I could have had a pension, but I decided to be a retard on the internet. Like, that's it.
That's it. That's it.
But hey, man, you know what? I met you. I met tons of other absolutely amazing
I mean, you
people.
meet some really interesting people doing this, man.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons I've never stopped podcasting is because of how cool the relationships I've built are. You
Mhm.
know, like because I've always kind of thought about like, do I want to take the time to do it? Do I just like I could do other things? I could,
Yeah.
read or I could just chill. Like I don't have to be doing anything. I don't need the money. I don't yeah, like it's like all right, like I don't need to do it. But I love the relationships I've built, man. Some of
Yeah.
the coolest people I've met are from doing this
Yeah,
and just having these
honestly.
conversations, Would have would I have ever met like some dude I watched fight for 16 years? You know what I'm
Probably not.
saying?
Yeah.
And all I had to do was message him and say, "Hey, you want to come on a podcast?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll do that." I was like,
Mhm.
"God, you don't know me from Adam. Thanks." Like, yeah, it's like cool, man. It's like, yeah, no, like some of the like I've got and just going to Childerberg and meeting some of those people in person and having Pete, meet me for dinner or like whatever, like
Yeah.
the friendship I've built with you or with Buck or
Mhm.
you know any of these people, it's just priceless, man. In
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, one thing that I'm reminded of, my buddy Duke Chastain, and I think you know CD McRae. We stayed, Sarah and I stayed with them when we went on vacation back in November last year. And yeah, I never met them before, but they met us at the airport, let us stay at their house. I bought them dinner and breakfast the next day. And yeah, I mean, I'm shit like that doesn't happen. I mean, Reed stayed.
have you had Gord on yet?
No, I know who Gord is, but I don't know him.
Oh, dude, man, he's done some really great work on on the guys that were organizing the protests in Canada because
That's
he's
right, yeah.
originally from Canada. He's done some
Yeah,
really good work on that. You should have him on to talk about those things because it's pretty wild some of the shit the government's done to those people. I'll get you in contact with him.
cool.
Just yeah, just like I'll he won't mind. I'll just text you his number and I'll let him know
Cool.
that you're going to text him.
Right on,
So,
right on.
yeah, I'll just shoot
Yeah,
you his
dude.
number.
This whole podcasting sphere has been really cool because like I've met some people that I've looked up to for a very, very long time. And it's always kind of surprising because like
It's wild, isn't it?
you don't think they're gonna be like just a guy, but they are. So like the one thing that I'm reminded of is James Sexton, who's like the most famous divorce lawyer right now. He's like a friend of mine now. He's gonna go on Joe Rogan sometime soon. He was on Lex Friedman, Chris Williamson's podcast, and like I could hit him up at any time, and we're like just buddies.
Oh, that's
He like
cool.
he like flexed or he like built me up when he did my other show with Brandy and Ryan at like for 15 minutes straight, and I'm like, this dude's like the most famous divorce lawyer in the world. He's here building this fucking asshole up.
Right. Well, it is so wild. Sometimes too, you'll have somebody. I think it was Daniel McAdams. The first time he ever came on
Yeah.
my show, he was like, "Dude, I love your show. I'm so thankful you invited me on." And I was like, "How the fuck did you ever hear of me?"
Yeah,
You
you're like a staffer for Ron Paul, and who the
Yeah,
fuck am
like
I?
who am I?
Yeah,
And I had the same experience with like Mark Claire. Like the first time Mark Claire came on, he's like, "Oh
yeah.
shit, Uncle Tommy." Hey, and I was like, "Why are you calling me Uncle Tommy?" He's like, "Dude, I love you." And I'm like, "Really?"
Well, you
I
know
was
what's kind
like,
of funny
"Oh,
is that Mark, I actually originally heard of Mark through fucking Peter Schiff. Because Peter Schiff shared an episode that he did with Mark on Lions of Liberty. And then I just followed him on Twitter. And then, a couple years later, oh, hey, me and Mark, after I got married down in Florida, I'm hanging out. And Mark bought me a night's worth of drinks when we were hanging
cool."
out. So, like, just shit like
Mark's
that.
such a sweet guy. Like I
Yeah, he
love the
is.
guy, like he's one of my favorite people I've met, like
Mhm.
it's just so interesting that like it's these people you're kind of watching and you're like, oh, okay, one day maybe I'll get to talk to this guy. And when you get them on, they're like, yeah, dude, I love your show. What took you so long to invite me on? And you're like, I didn't think you knew how it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
crazy because I think that way about pretty much everybody that I've had on the show, like, consistently. So, you, Pete, for example, like, I remember everybody's like, "Oh, man, Pete seems like such a dick." Like, if you look at the way Pete is on Twitter,
Pete
you
is
might
one of
think
the
he's a fucking
nicest
asshole.
dudes in the world.
Oh, yeah, just, like, the sincerely, like, sweetest dude ever. But, though, like, if you're a dick to him, he'll be a dick back. He has no problem being a dick back, but if you're good to
I
him,
think Pete's
he
probably nicer
reciprocates
than
it.
I am.
Honestly, yeah. Like one on one, he's the nicest dude ever. But if you come at him sideways,
Oh
don't
yeah.
don't be
He
surprised when he
ain't
fucking
afraid.
fires
He's gonna
back.
come
No.
right back on you. He's throwing haymakers at your ass.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that all kind of started for me. Like me and Pete kind of became friends because Jack Lloyd was talking shit on him. And then I'm like, I just don't think I was being good
Yeah,
faith.
let
I'm
me
like,
hear your point of view. Like, I
yeah,
don't get
I was
it.
like, I think you just got to hear Pete out a little bit. Like, he's changing his mind. He's updating his worldview. You should just hear him out. And then, like, of course, Jack doesn't want to hear any of that because he's this fucking ego maniacal fucking dude.
Yeah,
And then
so maybe
Pete,
you're the fucking problem.
exactly. So, like, if you can't accept the fact that, like, not everybody's a fucking Ancapistan libertarian, then I don't know what to tell you because once again, you're missing out on a lot of just like genuinely good people. And I've talked to Pete about this before. Like, I'd rather have neighbors that are like fucking just regular old dudes than the perfect fucking
Mhm.
well-read libertarians. Like my band, they don't watch my podcast. They
Dude,
like
I've
know
never
that I
even
do it.
asked my neighbors about their political preferences.
Who cares?
Like when I
Who gives
see
a
them,
fuck, you know?
they roll over here and they roll a joint and Beatrix gets high with them and I drink a beer with them and that's about it.
Mm,
Like it's
yeah.
not there's like what the fuck are we doing? Like I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. Like what we were talking
Yeah.
about tonight, like we didn't talk politics at all tonight.
No.
Like there are plenty of politics we could talk. I don't give a shit about it right now. I don't
No.
give a fuck to talk about politics. Who cares?
I mean, we literally did the last like half hour on just straight up like musical Pantera history. Like I give a shit about
Right.
that stuff. Like
Who gives
I
a
enjoy
shit?
talking about stuff way more, and that's like way cooler than anything we talk about political world.
Well, and
Like
it
and
keeps me engaged. So, because sometimes like people will go off on these rants politically, and I'm like, yeah, I think I gave a fuck like 5 minutes ago.
it's just fucking check out.
Yeah, I just check out. And then I'm trying to, oh shit, I'm supposed to be interviewing this guy. So now I got to figure out what to ask him next. Maybe I got to figure out what he's talking about.
Yeah, find like a pinpoint somewhere. I mean, I keep a notepad in front of me just in case, if I'm zoning out or if I
Well,
hear something.
what happens a lot of times is people will say words and it makes me think of other things. And then
Yeah.
I'll just go down that rabbit hole in my own head and they're
Mhm.
still talking and I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm
Yes.
thinking about this. And so after they finish talking, I don't even know what they finished talking on. I'm like, well, you said blah, blah, blah. And I'll just bring it back to whatever my mind caught on to because
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I like sometimes I'm just like, I just get so tired of it sometimes. It's exhausting.
Mhm.
It's exhausting to always worry about the politics. It can be
Mhm.
so exhausting that this is the only reason I've ever thought about quitting podcasting is because I
Mhm.
get so tired of trying to understand or keep up with what those politics are.
Yeah. Dude, I
You
totally
know,
get it. I've felt the same way quite a bit because it's like, ugh, I got to keep up with this, keep up with that, and then what's the news leaving out about this? What's a reliable source for this? Where should I? Sometimes I just want to sit down and just bullshit with people. Like, my Sunday morning coffee streams are always just, hey, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Let's come. I have like an idea of what I want to talk about, but mostly I just want to sit here and talk to the people who want to come and hang out with me. Hey, grab your coffee. Let's just bullshit. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. If you have something that you want to talk about, let's just fucking sit down and shoot the shit, man. I don't want to fucking get all amped up. Like I've
church
during like a
starts at 10.
psychological
This is the
idea.
only reason I'm not there is because church starts at 10.
I know. It's just a very inopportune time for some people. I feel like if I started it earlier, so like, Sunday mornings, once again, I'm at the gym, and then I usually like book right at 8 o'clock, and then from like 8 to 10, I'll play Xbox or do dishes or kind of fill my time up for a little bit, and then,
Yeah, just
right at
kind of
10, I start
relax.
going.
Just kind of, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, my Sunday coffee streams are always just like chill, like, hey, just come, let's just
I'd
shoot
come
the
on.
shit.
I'd come on if it weren't at 10 o'clock. It's like I got to
Yeah.
be at church at 10 o'clock, so it's like I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it, man. No
So
hard feelings. There's
yeah,
more important things than listening to me fucking babble on
but you're
fucking
gonna have me
Lamar.
on that dating show. I'm gonna come on there and tell everybody how to date poorly.
Yeah, perfect, man. Yeah. Well, listen, I'd be excited for that because Brandy, as much as she could be kind of like an airhead, I always call her like my dumber older sister. I love her dearly, but she has a mind of her own, and what I respect about her most is that she doesn't. She, I don't. I guess that she's like independent in a lot of ways. Like she's not. She's genuine. She's always genuine. Although she may be stupid sometimes, she's always genuine. And you can expect an answer from her that is like legit. And she's not like, she never has ill will towards anybody. So, like, when I see her saying something and she's just getting bodied on Twitter, I'm like, I may not agree with her, but I know that's how she feels. And I know she doesn't have hate in her heart.
I never attack y'all on Twitter. Only attack y'all on the live chat. It's all in good fun. You know me. It's just
Of
for
course.
I'm goofing off. I
Yeah.
probably don't mean half of the things I say. Like even if I say it in real life, I probably don't mean it. It's like,
Well, I mean, if it's directed towards
like,
me, then it's probably reasonable.
no, it's just like almost everything I say is intended to be a joke. It's just whatever. Don't take it so personally. Um, yeah, sure. I have some opinions on dating and the culture of the way things are. And I'm sure Brandy's mistaken on all sorts of things. But that's how we all learned because we
Mhm.
fucked up a bunch before we got it
Oh, yeah.
right. You
Mhm.
know? And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
You know?
I think
And that's why I look at like some of these like I don't know if they call this a red pill show or whatever. But I look at these kind of red pill like dating shows and I'm like, yeah, they're 23 years old. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Mhm.
Obviously. You know, it's not because they're intentionally malicious.
Mhm.
It's just they don't know. If you
Yeah.
don't know, you don't know. And that's 90% of what you're dealing with in most of these
Mhm.
shows. And I don't understand why the people that invite the people on are inviting people on that don't know.
Mhm.
Invite people on that have been successful
Yeah.
because
Well,
that's where you learn, right? You
mhm.
learn from hearing about success stories. You don't
Mhm.
learn from hearing about a 23-year-old who's got a body count of 60 and can't figure out why she
Yeah.
can't keep a dude.
Right.
What? Okay. I can kind of point out a couple of red flags here, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, I mean,
And
I mostly
I don't even need to be successful at dating to be able to
Mhm.
tell you where you're wrong, you know?
Mhm.
Like, and so, and that's what I kind of don't get about it. It's fun sometimes hearing some of these guys own these little like OnlyFans girls. Don't get me wrong. It's
Yeah.
funny. I laugh at it. It's hilarious. Okay. But that's not helping anybody. It's not.
No.
You
No.
know,
Well,
really what you need, why not get some like 3 or 4 45-year-old women who have been married for the last 20 years, along with 3 or 4 45-year-old men who have been married for the last 20 years to have conversations about successful relationships. Nobody's
Mhm.
doing that because it doesn't have the sensationalism.
And there it is. Once again, if you got people like that, nobody would watch it because it's boring, right? So,
No, it's
like,
not boring. It's honest. It's
well, yeah, but once
informative.
again,
Nobody
for
wants to be informed. Everybody wants to be entertained. That's
yes,
the problem.
exactly. So, like,
This is why I have like I don't know. I don't look at my listeners, but I think the last show I really paid attention to, I had 8,000 downloads on it. So
Mhm.
this is why I get 8,000 downloads, and then you'll get somebody getting like 30,000 downloads just to talk shit. It's like,
Mhm.
because all I'm doing is having conversations. I'm not trying to freaking like get sensational about things. Like that's
Yeah.
not, that doesn't interest me. I don't care. I don't need attention that badly, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and like that's Rolo talks about this a little bit, who's now a friend of mine as well, which is kind of bizarre because I've been listening to his stuff for years and
Well, and y'all
I
have
have
like
all his
absolutely
books, well,
nothing in
most of his books,
common.
and read all his stuff. But like, you know,
Well, and y'all have nothing in common.
no, nothing at all.
Nothing. Nothing.
Absolutely zero. But so he's like, well, if you go to an airport and look at the average of the people there, you're gonna see fat people and people who aren't attractive, slobs and all that. But like, if you had those people on a podcast, nobody's gonna watch. But when you have the big old booby girls with the inflatable tits and the Brazilian butt lifts and stuff, and then you have a conversation with
Is
them,
that
and
what
then
BBL
somebody owns
stands
a
for?
Brazilian butt
You
lift. Yeah.
just you just answered that question for me. I had no idea. I kept hearing people say BBL,
Yeah.
and you just said it, and I was like, "Wait, BBL."
Yeah.
I had
Brazilian butt
no
lift.
idea what the fuck is that?
It's literally where they pretty much get shit put into their ass to make it look bigger.
Like collagen, or what are they putting?
I
in
don't
their
know what
ass?
exactly it is. I don't want to say it's
So
silicone.
it's
I
like an
don't know what.
implant, though. It's like a breast implant,
Yes.
but it's for your ass.
Mhm.
Do they have labia implants?
Ooh.
That's where most
I don't
chicks
know.
need the help. No, I'm just playing.
Ooh. That's fucking
I
rough.
I want that
But yeah.
shit to grab me like a freaking sleeping bag.
The inflatable labia. All right, honey, get that fucking pump out. But yeah, Rolo always says like on Access Vegas because he does a show where like their goal isn't to kick the girls off, and they never kicked any girls off in like the year or so that they've been doing it. So basically, they talk like
what shows this?
Access Vegas. It's Rolo and Mike Sartain where they have a bunch of basically like
Who's Mike Sartain? I'm sorry.
he's the guy who runs Men of Action, and he also runs his own podcast called the Michael Sartain Podcast. It's actually pretty good.
Okay,
He talks a lot of
I've
like
never heard of. Okay,
yeah,
I've never
he
heard.
talks like a lot of like evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology,
Oh,
and
I like that
stuff
shit,
like that.
man. That
Oh yeah, it's
shit's interesting as fuck.
fascinating. So, he's had a whole ton of interesting
What
people
was that
on.
guy? I'm sorry, the guy that got kicked out of the university in Washington. That was an evolutionary biologist.
Was that Brett Weinstein?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always interesting listening to him talk. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Mike
even though
does
his
a
wife was like a Keynesian economist, and
mhm.
she was stupid as shit, but he was always interesting to hear. So
Yeah,
I
I
always
know
liked
Mike
that.
has like a whole bunch of Evo Bio people on, and then like a whole bunch of entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So his show's
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
yeah, that stuff's
Um,
interesting as shit. You
yeah,
know,
him and Rolo host Access Vegas, where they have like OnlyFans girls, porn stars, and they don't purposely berate that, or they don't berate them at all. They just have conversations with them about evolutionary biology and, kind of dating and culture and stuff like that. So it's a lot more of a mature conversation versus like Fresh and Fit or whatever, where it's basically let's bring these girls on and then listen to them woman prattle for 6 or 7 hours straight. It's just a more mature conversation. So for someone like
how
you,
did
if you were more into
how
like
do
the
those
conversation,
freaking podcasts go so long?
they
Because
just farm
like,
super chats.
huh?
They just farm super chats. So basically, all they do is they just continue to let the show go on, and then people keep sending super chats
I
as long
mean,
as they're
this one
streaming.
might be 6 hours by the time we're done.
Yeah,
But
basically,
no,
it's just a live stream, and then people keep sending in money, so they keep going.
oh, okay. Because like, I keep because I watched Andrew on your show, and then I watched the Andrew versus Dave Smith debate,
Mhm.
and now like my whole feed is just like I'll be watching a video, and everything under it is just like whatever podcast Andrew is debating some chick.
Yeah,
And I've been
sorry.
watching a few
I'm
of
sorry
them.
to hear that.
No, that's fine. I don't mind it because it's like some of the stuff is interesting because it's like, I wonder why she thinks that way or whatever, because he's typically right most of the time. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, he's mostly right. So it's like, all right, like what is she saying here? And why does this last 30 minutes? And I'm watching it. I'm like, I texted, I messaged Rachel today. I was like,
Mm.
Jesus, my freaking feed is full of these Andrew on whatever podcast debating these chicks. How does he do that? It would wear me out, man. I'd be totally exhausted. I'd be like, I got married so I didn't have to deal with
Mm.
psycho chicks. Like, like what the
Mhm.
hell? And so, like, I don't, I mean, I guess it's a necessity. Somebody's got to be out there like doing something, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Otherwise,
I think
otherwise their ideology would run rampant without being challenged in any way, shape, or form. So I mean, at least somebody's out there doing. I just don't have the energy for it. I don't have the
mm,
patience. you
No, so
know?
part of like the whole red pill sphere is to hopefully introduce men to be more focused on their own self. So like as an understanding that like you cannot make women change. And like women are going to do what the fuck they're going to do regardless of what you want or the world that you want. All you can really control is yourself. So therefore, whatever you do to yourself is going to be much more important. And once again, it's kind of like the idea of mental point of origin where you always think about yourself first before you consider other people and other things because
Mm.
you're going to put yourself first because you know that once again, I can only help people best when I best help myself first. Right. So it's just kind of the idea of making sure that all your ducks are in a row and understanding that once again, you can't control other people. And like you could sit there and berate women, but they're just going to do what the fuck they're going to do. And they're spoiled for choice. All those girls who have the 60 body count and are doing like the grossest shit that you and I would consider foul, they're still going to land a guy eventually. Like someone's going to fall for them, and you sitting there berating them on the podcast, giving a white claw and kicking them off isn't going to do anything. Like that's just basically you beating your chest in their face. So yeah, exactly.
Well,
Um, but
we're over 3 hours. Somebody had to show
holy
tits at some
fuck.
point.
I didn't realize, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, I didn't
yeah,
know.
so
I just looked and I was like, oh crap, we're at 3 hours and 20 minutes. So I guess we should
yeah,
probably end
man.
this because you know we kind of like each other. We could just keep going, but
Well,
I'll
I mean,
have to go get
you can always
I mean, I'd have to go get another white claw to make it a power hour because I can't just keep going sober. So,
Yeah, man.
all right, well,
Jesus.
plug away, my bro.
That I think we saved the world enough for this one. But yeah, feel free to check me out in Liberty and Health. I'm kind of moving down to maybe doing like one or two a week. I was doing two a week there for or 3 a week for like the first year, but now I was down to two. Now I think I'm just gonna do it on Wednesdays because that's easiest and I don't have to sit here and juggle. So Wednesdays usually around 7 p.m. and Sunday every other Sunday at 10 a.m. is my coffee podcast where I or both in Liberty and Health. Monday nights, 5 till midnight with me, Adam Nutter, the guys from Biting the Bullet, and Sam Urban, which Tommy, we'd love to have you as a guest sometime. I
Y'all
know we've
still
talked about it
haven't
quite a bit.
invited me. I've been
Well,
waiting. I
anytime.
love all you guys. Like I know you all, and not one of you has ever reached out.
Well, you know what? If you're free tomorrow night at I think it'd be 7 p.m. your time, you're more than welcome. I'm
I
sure
can
they'd
do
be
it.
down for it.
I can do
Cool.
it.
All right. Well, I'll let
Yeah.
them know in the chat that you're down for it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm off
S-
Tuesday, so like, yeah, we're good. I can do whatever.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm gonna let them know now, and then we'll get you in the fold of the chat. Um, and then cognitive vigilance every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Not every Thursday night, but we try to do it every Thursday night. Um, and a common crown. If you go to acommoncrown.com, you'll find all our stuff.
Which
And
is the
yeah, I
best
think that's
of
all
his
my plugs.
projects.
Yes, it definitely is. You know why that is? You don't have to listen to me ramble the entire time.
Yeah, well, and he also probably puts a lot more energy into that than he does in anything else.
Yes. Yes. And especially the newer stuff. I seriously can't wait to record some of this stuff. This song Light Me Up. I can't wait for everybody to
You
hear
gotta
it. I
send me
think we're
you gotta send me some fucking riffs, man. I want to hear some shit.
I have some poorly recorded versions just so that way I have the outlines, but the finished product, which I'm like dying to go back and record it because I'm like, man, this is just gonna be
Cool.
so fucking killer when we finally get it out there.
I like to see you excited for it, man. It's like that's
Yeah.
like so hopeful. It's like, all right, yeah, this could be
Thanks,
good.
man.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's gonna be interchanging some stuff in there that like we haven't heard from some of his other songs. So
Yeah,
and y'all's other songs are good, man. Like there's nothing wrong with them. You know, uh I have no issue with anything y'all have recorded. I like the stuff y'all are doing. Um I think there's room, but yeah, there's always room. You know?
yeah, man.
So
Well, you know what? This newer stuff will hopefully leave a lot less to be desired and will be fucking bigger than everything else we've ever done. But I think we're moving in the right direction with this newer stuff. Not that we were in a bad direction before, but I feel like we're back hitting it, and I feel like we got a breath of fresh air in us. And you know, this year may not be a Common Crowns year, but 2025 I know is gonna fucking kill it. We're gonna be fucking everywhere. We're gonna get on as many opening shows as we can, and
you need to quit talking
hopefully
about
get
the
as many
year, start talking about
festivals.
the month. This might not be our month, but next month.
Well, you know what? This month is going to be our month because we're playing the Hinder Show and Rock for Life. So,
Damn
Rock for Life is
straight.
always my
And
favorite
then
show
you're
every
opening for
year.
Drowning Pool and Flaw.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Flaw. Dude, Flaw is the best of all three of those bands. I don't care if nobody knows who they are.
No, Flaw's pretty fucking badass,
Flaw was
actually. I
a
like them a lot.
bad motherfucking band, dude.
Yes, they were. Well, you know, I think that they put out a covers album like 2 years ago, and they actually had a they had a cover of Still in the Night, and it was actually pretty good. It was like a metal version, but I was like,
Yeah.
you know, this is actually pretty fucking cool.
Flaw never got super popular, but like for those of us that were listening like down in the underground and listening to like hardcore music, man, they were good. I always
Yeah.
liked them. I always liked them,
Mhm.
you know. Drowning Pool, fun fact, Drowning Pool was the first album I bought out of basic training. I went to the PX. I had no
Mm.
music to listen to. So I went to the PX looking for CDs so I could listen to music. Now that I wasn't in basic training, I had a little bit of freedom. I could listen to music. I could kind of do my own thing. Drowning Pool
Yeah.
was the first album I ran into. The next one was Hatebreed's first album. So those were the first two albums I bought. And Dope. Dope's album with
Okay, yeah.
Die Motherfucker, Die Motherfucker, Die. Like
Yeah.
that album, those three albums were the first ones I bought coming out of from the PX out of basic training.
Nice. Yeah. Well, Sarah and I went and
Because
saw
that was what,
Seven Dust.
2003? Yeah, 2003. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So their first album, Sinner, I think it was called Drowning Pool. That is, I think
Yep.
it was 2001. 2001. I want to say it was
Well, it was
2001.
this
Because
was
they're
in the PX for sale in 2003. I don't know when it was released, but I know.
okay.
Yeah. No, you're
Gotcha.
right. It was 2001. I was
Yes.
released in 2003. I joined in 2001. You're right. You're correct.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah, man.
all right.
Fuck yeah.
These people are tired of listening to us talk.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we
If
saved
they're
the world.
if they're
Hopefully,
not, they're still listening.
yeah. Well, they got a couple of more hours of a podcast between you and I. They can go listen to my
So we're
show.
gonna do this. We're gonna do this once a month, right?
Yeah, man, I'm
Updates,
all for it.
physical fitness, better yourself. That's what I think. That's what I'm gonna call it. Better yourself. Yeah,
There you go.
I'll use your silhouette as
There we go.
because I'm just the flabby chunk of mess. But all right, cool, man. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Rock and roll.
They're done, and if they're not done with me, I'm done with them.